Chapter 527. Tang Zhang did not care whether the Ministry of Environmental Protection officials were happy or not, but thought of another situation. The Tree of Life improved the air, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth would become more and more abundant. This way, cultivators would be able to cultivate faster, and this continent would be more suitable for cultivators to cultivate. It was equivalent to preparing the external conditions for cultivators to return. Could it be that this was the will of the heavens, borrowing his hand to create such a good condition for cultivators? Su Yingtian clearly did not think of this point, and continued to ask, what other magical aspects does the Tree of Life have? I don't know, you will have to find out for yourselves. Tang Zhang spread out his hands and said helplessly. At that time, there were two other people that appeared in the base. One of them was your old acquaintance Marshall, while the other person's identity was mysterious. I was actually unable to find out anything about her. I heard that they also came to Chongheng City. Do you know who they are? Su Yingtian could not help but ask Lan Yu, whom he had only met once, as if it was still fresh in his memory. I don't know. Tang Zhang replied expressionlessly. Su Yingtian looked at him deeply, but did not delve deeper, only reminding him. This woman is not simple, we are unable to determine how high her cultivation is, but I can tell you one thing: when you were trapped in the cave, she once broke into the base and started a massacre. Moreover, she was aiming for you. I only found out about this later. Tang Zheng's heart moved. She actually broke into the base for him, and even started a massacre. This was something he did not expect. One of the dragon group's mecha was destroyed by her hands. If you meet her, do not lower your guard. Su Yingtian warned. Tang Zheng's head thumped. The opponent's strength was too strong. Tang Zhang had to use a Herculean effort, and even had to use the four symbols venerable to defeat the mecha. But the opponent was able to do this alone. It was not easy. Then she was determined to improve her relationship with Tang Zheng. What could he do? Could he forcefully drive her away? The opponent was so powerful, he might not be able to do this. I wonder where she went. He subconsciously started to think, but he did not think that Lan Yu would have gone to find her grandfather directly. Lan Yu personally visited the recycle bin. When she stood in front of the mountain of junk, she couldn't help but frown. She was a bit of a clean freak. If it were in the past, she would never have come here. But now she had no choice but to come. Besides, she also wanted to see the old man who had painstakingly raised Tang Zheng. She held her breath and walked into the yard of the recycling station. It had been expanded a lot. This was the result of the hard work of Tang Dahai and a group of old fellows in the past 6 months. Their recycle bin was doing very well. Even if Tang Dahai was taken away, a few old fellows were struggling to maintain it. Seeing that Tang Dahai had returned, the group of old fellows seemed to have found their backbone again. They rushed to tell each other and were overjoyed. Excuse me, is Mr. Tang Dahai around? Lan Yu took the initiative to ask. The group of old fellows in the yard all turned around and looked at the two strangers. Without a doubt, Lan Yu and Wu's temperament was incompatible with the environment. With a single glance, they could tell that the other party's identity was not ordinary. Many old fellows immediately became uneasy. They looked at the two of them uneasily and then looked at Tang Dahai. Tang Dahai walked out and suspiciously looked at the two of them and said, I am Tang Dahai. Why are you looking for me? In the past 6 months, after Tang Zhang had consumed the life-continuing pill, he was in high spirits. Moreover, his life had greatly improved and his temperament had also undergone a great change. If he were to walk out alone, he would definitely not be treated as an old man picking up junk. However, the honest smile that he was born with still hung on his face. Lan Yu stared at Tang Dahai, as if she wanted to see every detail of him clearly. Although Tang Dahai had changed a lot, the meticulous Lan Yu could still see the traces left behind by the burden of life on his body. Lan Yu took the initiative to extend her hand and politely said, Old man, hello, my name is Lan Yu. Nice to meet you. Tang Dahai politely said, May I ask who you are? What business do you have with me? Lan Yu glanced at the others and said in a low voice, Can we find a place to talk? Tang Dahai muttered to himself for a moment, then led the way. Please follow me. Leading the two of them to the door of a room, Lan Yu gave Wu a look. Wu nodded in understanding and stood at the door with his arms crossed, like a door god. The others whispered to each other, discussing who these two people were to put on such airs. Tang Dahai was also guessing the other party's identity. He poured a cup of water for Lan Yu and asked straightforwardly, "Can we talk now?" Lan Yu's expression became serious and said, "Old man, I want to hear the details of how you picked up Tang Zheng." Little Zheng. Tang Dahai was startled, his expression became strange. "This is already an adult's past, it's not worth mentioning. But I'm very interested. I wonder if old master can let me get what I want?" Lan Yu looked at the other party with a burning gaze, and asked without giving up. Tang Dahai was not an idiot. Now that so many things had happened, and the other party was obviously here for Tang Zheng, he immediately thought wrongly. He thought that the other party was here to cause trouble for Tang Zheng again, which was why he wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. The old man's heart was filled with a rare anger, and he said indignantly, "Are you people done yet? How did my grandson offend you? Why do you want to kill him?" Lan Yu was startled for a moment, then immediately understood that Tang Dahai had misunderstood her. She felt a little sad, but also a little relieved. At least Tang Dahai was truly concerned about Tang Zheng, and this relationship between grandfather and grandson was not the least bit fake. Lan Yu was not angry, but instead gently explained, "Old man, you misunderstood. I am not here to deal with Tang Zheng. I have no ill intentions towards you." "Hung, you still want to lie to me? Seeing that you are so beautiful, why do you like to lie so much? Let me tell you, you can't lie. You will suffer the consequences of your own actions in the future." Tang Dahai sincerely taught, "Old master, I am telling the truth. I have no ill intentions towards Tang Zheng, and will protect him at all costs," Lan Yu said with certainty. Tang Dahai was stunned, and looked at the other party dumbfoundedly, and asked in bewilderment, "You are not one of those people who came to cause trouble for little Zhang?" Lan Yu shook her head. "Of course not." "Then who are you?" Lan Yu hesitated for a moment, and said, "I am his biological mother." Tang Dahai cried out in alarm, and jumped up from his chair. He stared at Lan Yu in disbelief and stammered, You. For a long time, he was unable to say a word. In fact, he had fantasized that Tang Zheng's family would come to find him. But after waiting for nearly 20 years, not a single person came to find Tang Zheng. In the end, he no longer held any hope, and guessed that maybe when the other party abandoned Tang Zheng, they never thought that they would come to find him again. But at this moment, a living person stood in front of him, and said that she was Tang Zheng's biological mother. How could he not be surprised? Outside the house, a group of old fellows heard Tang Dahai's scream, and looked at each other at the same time, thinking that maybe the woman wanted to harm the old fellow. The group of people became excited, and shouted as they rushed forward, "You are not allowed to hurt old Tang, or else we old fellows will fight it out with you." Wu stood at the door, and with one man guarding the pass, 10,000 people could not get through. Who could break through, but she did not make a move on these people, and only used a gentle force to shake them all away. Hearing the shouting outside the door, Tang Dahai hurriedly said that he was fine, and told everyone to disperse and not to worry about him. Only then did the group of old fellows give up. Tang Dahai finally calmed down, and his eyes became very complicated. He bitterly asked, "Why is it that after so many years, all of you did not ask about little Zheng, and only came to find him now? Do you know how much he wanted you to come find him when he was young, so that he could have a father and mother, and a complete family?" Hearing this, Lan Yu's brows revealed a pained expression, and said, "I always thought that he was no longer in this world, but the heavens pitied him, and let him meet a kind person like you." "Humph. No longer in this world? If I hadn't accidentally picked him up back then, I'm afraid that he really wouldn't be in this world anymore," Tang Dahai said snappily. "Yes, this is all my fault. Back then, I didn't protect him well, and was a villain who harmed him. This is all because I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a mother. Old master, no matter if you scold me or hit me, I won't have a single word of complaint, because I brought this upon myself." Lan Yu was dejected, and said with tears in her eyes, "Someone wants to harm him? But he's still a baby. Who could be so heartless?" Tang Dahai would not hit or scold her, but he was shocked by this news. Lan Yu shook her head. "It's hard to explain what happened back then. The child was stolen from me. At that time, I had just given birth to him, and my body was weak, so I didn't have the strength to protect him. That's why the villain took advantage of this opportunity. Too vicious, to actually make a move on a baby. If I were to meet him, I would risk my old bones to get an explanation for little Zhang." Tang Dahai was so angry that his face turned red, and he said indignantly. Seeing him reveal his sincere feelings, Lan Yu said from the bottom of her heart, "He is more fortunate to have a grandfather like you than a mother like me. You are more competent than me. No wonder his feelings for you are so deep, and he isn't even willing to say a word to me, let alone forgive me." Hearing this, Tang Dahai's heart thumped, and he nervously asked, "You've seen little Zheng?" Lan Yu dejectedly nodded her head. "But he doesn't want to see me at all. This mother of mine is really the world's biggest failure of a mother." Hearing this, Tang Dahai suddenly felt a little frightened. His grandson was his only support, and had been his spiritual support for all these years. Now that his family had found him, his grandson was no longer his, but someone else's. Chapter 528. Lan Yu's eyes were sharp and her hands were quick. She immediately supported him and called out, "Old master, what happened to you?" Tang Dahai was hit by this sudden turn of events. He fainted and lost consciousness. Unable to wake him up, Lan Yu was deeply afraid that he would have an accident. Then, she really didn't want to recognize Tang Zhang, so she hurriedly picked up the old man and rushed out. "Let's go to the hospital." When the other old fellows saw this, they turned pale with fright. "What did you do to old Tang? If you dare to hurt him, his grandson little Zhang will not let you off." Wu was also stunned for a moment. He thought to himself, could it be that mistress had injured him? She didn't have time to think about it carefully. Seeing that her mistress had already rushed out of the courtyard, she quickly chased after her. Tang Zheng and Su Yingtian parted ways. Su Yingtian returned to Beijing with the information he needed. He also wanted to fulfill the promise he made to Tang Zheng and get Xing Feng to stop fighting for the time being. Tang Zheng had just walked to the entrance of the neighborhood when he saw an old man rushing over. He recognized that this man was one of his grandfather's old friends. "Little Zheng, something big happened to your grandfather and he was sent to the hospital." The old man's face was red as he said breathlessly. Tang Zheng's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly asked, "What happened to my grandfather?" "Two women came to look for him today. I don't know what happened in the room. Your grandfather was carried out and unconscious. The others have already chased him to the hospital. I specially came to inform you." "Two women?" Tang Zheng's eyes flashed. He guessed that it must be that woman and Wu. Speaking of which, he still did not know what that woman's name was. However, at this moment, he did not have a good impression of these two people, only a burning anger. They actually went crazy and attacked his grandfather. That was absolutely unforgivable. He immediately hailed a taxi and sped to the hospital. At the entrance of the hospital, he immediately saw Wu. Wu also saw him and quickly walked over to welcome him. However, before she could even open her mouth, she saw Tang Zheng attack. This move was extremely sharp. Marshall hurriedly blocked it, but with a muffled bang, she flew out like a kite with a broken string, fiercely crashing into the wall. Tang Zheng didn't give the other party a chance to speak. His anger exploded. When the others saw his murderous look, they all kept quiet out of fear. Tang Zheng coldly snorted. He did not care about Wu at all. Moreover, this move could not harm her life. It was just a small lesson. Ignoring Marshall, who was struggling to get up, Tang Zheng had already rushed through the door. Marshall's face was pale. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He resisted the roiling blood and shouted weakly, "8th floor of the inpatient department." Tang Zheng ignored her kind reminder. He couldn't wait to take the elevator. He rushed up the stairs like a whirlwind and went straight to the 8th floor. From afar, he saw an old friend of his grandfather walking out of a ward. He immediately ran over and saw his grandfather lying on the bed. There were a few people around the bed, and Lan Yu was among them. "You woman, what a vicious heart. I want to take revenge for my grandfather." He rushed towards Lan Yu like a madman, his fingers like a sword, attacking Lan Yu. Lan Yu raised her head to look at him, her face revealing a pleasantly surprised expression. When she saw him crazily attacking her, she did not dodge, nor did she counterattack. She allowed this fierce attack to hit her body. She took a small step back, but the corner of her mouth carried a gentle smile as she looked kindly at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng's originally prepared continuous attacks came to an abrupt end. He did not expect that the other party would not resist at all. From beginning to end, He had a kind smile on his face. This smile seemed to have a magical power, causing his following moves to instantly collapse and be unable to be used. Why didn't you fight back? Could it be that you know you're in the wrong? Lan Yu gently said, I won't do anything to my own child. This is a mother's instinct. But you hurt my grandfather. This is unforgivable. Tang Zheng's killing intent soared. He was about to make a move when he heard two voices shout in unison. Stop! Wu stood at the door, panicking. He leaped in front of his master's wife to protect her. He flew into a rage. Tang Zheng, you sure have guts. You dare to make a move on your master's wife. Little Zheng, you absolutely can't. This is disgraceful. Tang Dahai, who was lying on the bed, had already woken up. Seeing this scene, he bitterly cried out. Hearing his grandfather's voice, Tang Zheng was wild with joy. He turned around and pounced towards his grandfather. Seeing that his grandfather's face was pale, but his life was not in danger, he let out a big sigh of relief. He held his grandfather's hand and asked with concern, Grandfather, how are you? Where did she hurt you? Little Zheng, you almost made a big mistake. How could you make a move on her? Tang Dahai anxiously said. She hurt grandfather. Of course I have to make a move. Tang Zheng said without thinking. Who said she hurt me? I just fainted. It's not her fault. You misunderstood her. Tang Dahai explained. Misunderstanding? Tang Zheng was stunned. He had a strong first impression and actually wronged the other party. He turned his head to look at Lan Yu and Wu. Lan Yu still had a smile on his face, without the slightest bit of resentment. However, Wu was indignant as he fiercely glared at Tang Zheng. Since it was a misunderstanding, why didn't she dodge? Little Zheng, this lady might be your family. How could you make a move on her? Lan Yu heard this and generously waved his hand and said, It doesn't matter. If he hits me, I will willingly accept it. Master's wife, you. Wu Zhang wanted to refute but was stopped by Lan Yu, causing Wu to stare at Tang Zheng with dissatisfaction. Old friends, you guys go back first. This is a small matter of our family. I've troubled everyone. Tang Dahai persuaded the others to leave and the ward quieted down. Little Zheng, I have something to say to you. Didn't you always want to have a father and mother when you were young? Now that your family has found you, you've gotten what you wanted. Tang Dahai squeezed out a smile, but it had a bitter taste. My family only has you, grandfather. You were the one who raised me. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Tang Zheng immediately retorted. Tang Dahai's face darkened and said, Nonsense. How did I teach you since you were young? In life, one must first be filial. No matter how great a person's achievements are, if they do not know filial piety, then they are not considered a person. Your life was given to you by your parents, so you must be filial to your parents. But they have already abandoned me. The only reason I didn't die was because I met grandfather, so my life was already returned to them when they abandoned me. Tang Zheng said resolutely and decisively. Tang Dahai flew into a rage. He blew at his beard and stared, berating, Outrageous! If they did not give you life, would you have met me? Would you have been able to see this wonderful world? So, in the end, you have to thank your parents for giving birth to you. I only have the grace of raising you. Tang Dahai previously fainted because he could not accept the fact that Tang Zheng was leaving him. Because Tang Zheng was his motivation to live on. But now that he had recovered, although he still could not bear to part with Tang Zheng, the principle of right and wrong in his bones prevented him from doing anything that went against the principle of righteousness. What was righteousness? The grace of his parents was a great grace. This was his righteousness. No matter what, he would not go against it. He also did not want Tang Zheng to go against it and bear the infamy of being a traitor. This was Tang Dahai's most simple way of thinking. As a grandfather, he had the most sincere feelings for his grandson. Even if he felt wronged in his heart, he still had to protect his grandson. In my heart, grandfather's grace of raising me is greater than the grace of giving birth to me. Tang Zheng straightened his neck and said unyieldingly, Nonsense, you want to anger me to death? Tang Dahai raised his hand and wanted to slap him, but he could not. He could not bear to. Looking at his grandfather's angry and sad appearance, Tang Zheng was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Lan Yu was previously worried that the old man would make things difficult for her, but now she realized that she was really measuring the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Although the old man did not read many books and did not have much experience, he was more righteous than many of the so-called dignified gentlemen. He had a simple and kind heart. In comparison, Lan Yu could not help but feel inferior. Old man, don't say any more. This is not little Zheng's fault. He is right. It is all my fault. As a mother, I was unable to protect my child. This is a mother's dereliction of duty. I do not have the qualifications to ask for anything else. Lan Yu suddenly knelt in front of Tang Dehai, tears flickering in her eyes as she said in a tearful voice, "Master's wife, you absolutely cannot." Wu was shocked. In her heart, her master's wife had always been high and mighty, but at this moment, she was kneeling in front of an old man who did not know martial arts. She wanted to pull her master's wife up, but the other party was like a huge boulder, not moving at all. Tang Zheng was also a little surprised, and the anger that had been accumulating couldn't help but decrease a little. Tang Dehai was shocked, and immediately resisted the urge to sit up, pulling Lan Yu with all his might, shouting, you can't, I am an old man, how can you kneel to me? Hurry up and get up, get up." Lan Yu did not move at all and said emotionally, "Old man, you are little Zheng's grandfather, so you are my elder, so it is natural for me to kneel to you. Moreover, you raised him up, so even if I were to kneel in front of you, I would not be able to repay this kindness." "Sigh, you're exaggerating. Quickly get up, little Zheng. What are you in a daze for? Quickly help your mother up," Tang Dehai ordered. Although Tang Zheng was unwilling, seeing that his grandfather was about to get angry, he reluctantly supported Lan Yu. Lan Yu looked at him in a daze, but still did not move. Tang Zheng fiercely used his strength, but the other party was still as steady as a rock. Only now did he understand that Su Yingtian was not lying, her strength was truly unfathomable, and he was definitely not her opponent. Just now she could easily dodge his attack, but she did not dodge. "Old man, this is what I should do. I kneel down, not only to thank you for your kindness, but also to atone for my own sins." Lan Yu said, "What sin? What sin? If you still want to kneel, then I will also get off the bed and kneel." Tang Dehai had never been kneeled in his life. Chapter 529. Tang Dehai did not like others kneeling to him, nor was he willing to kneel to others. Moreover, how could he, who was simple in his bones, accept such a big gift? Lan Yu was forced to stand up and support Tang Dehai. "Old man, lie down first. Don't tire yourself out." Tang Dehai let out a long breath, the corner of his mouth squeezed out a smile and said, "You mother and son have reunited. Have a good chat first." "I have nothing to talk about with her," Tang Zheng said with a straight face. "Who said there is nothing to talk about? We must talk," Tang Dehai said firmly. Tang Zheng was helpless as he did not want to go against his grandfather's orders. Lan Yu said with a smile, "Old man, since the child is not willing, I will not force him." "How am I forcing him? This child is usually very obedient, but at critical times he likes to be stubborn with a bull's temper. This is all because I did not teach him well," Tang Dehai said with a calm face. "Old man, you are modest. It is because you taught him well that he has today's achievements," Lan Yu said from the bottom of her heart. Although Tang Dehai did not have much culture and was a rough person, and the conditions were so difficult, teaching a child like Tang Zheng was indeed a feat that many wealthy families could not achieve. The corner of Tang Dehai's mouth revealed a trace of a relieved smile as he kindly looked at Tang Zheng. "With your words, then my 20 years of hard work have not been in vain." Seeing his grandfather's attitude, Tang Zheng knew that he could not avoid it this time. He said to Lan Yu in a bad mood, "Come out and talk." Lan Yu was flattered and hurriedly nodded, "Okay, let's go out and talk." Tang Dehai did not forget to remind him, "Little Zheng, speak properly. Don't put on a bitter face, understand?" Tang Zheng reluctantly squeezed out a smile at his grandfather and walked out of the ward with Lan Yu. When they arrived at the stairwell, he looked at her with an unkind expression and said, "I don't know what you are planning. You actually went to find my grandfather and angered him to the point of being hospitalized. Do you think I will forgive you?" Lan Yu's face was full of shame. She took a deep breath and said, "Child, I don't dare to ask for your forgiveness. Before I went to find the old man, I didn't think that things would turn out like this. This is my fault. I apologize to you. Looking at her sincere expression, Tang Zhang could not help but think of the martial order sect master. These two people seemed to be very different. The martial order sect master always had a straight face and did not smile, giving Tang Zhang the impression that he was cold and heartless. However, Lan Yu really had too much of a motherly radiance. He had made things difficult for her time and time again, and even attacked her, but she did not complain at all. Instead, she took the initiative to admit her mistakes and ask for forgiveness. Everyone's heart was made of flesh. Tang Zheng's tone also softened a little. Then what exactly do you want? I just want to see you. I want to hear how you've been through all these years. I want to have another me in your life from now on. Lan Yu said expectantly. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, You're so sure that I'm your son? Of course. Perhaps before I saw you, I would have doubted it. However, after seeing you, this feeling of connection between mother and son will not lie to me. Han, how come I don't feel it? Tang Zheng said without any trace of politeness. You will feel it in the future. Lan Yu said without any objection. Then why did you abandon me in the past? This was the question that Tang Zheng was most confused about. When he was young, he had asked the sky many times, but no one answered him. Even though he was now an adult, he still wanted to know the answer to this question. It's a long story. In short, as a mother, I did not protect my own child. This is my fault. Lan Yu did not try to defend herself. Instead, she took the blame. I don't need such a general answer. I want a detailed answer. Tang Zheng was not satisfied. Don't worry, I will tell you the whole story. This is related to the martial order's complicated matters. It is not something that can be explained in a few words. Moreover, this is related to the safety of your life in the future. In the future? Could it be that I'm still in danger? Tang Zheng was flabbergasted. Lan Yu nodded. Yes. Back then, someone wanted to harm you. Although the main culprit is no longer in this world, he still has some remnants. If he knows that you are still in this world, I'm afraid that he will not let this matter rest and will harm you. Tang Zheng laughed coldly and said, Back then, I was just a baby in swaddling clothes. You could decide my life and death at will. However, I am no longer a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. If you want to kill me, it won't be that easy. To be honest, although he did not remember what happened back then, the other party had actually made a move on a baby who did not know anything. This enmity was too great. Tang Zheng would not turn a blind eye to it. Even if the other party did not come looking for him, he would not let them go. Seeing him make such a solemn vow, Lan Yu's face revealed a gratified expression. She praised, You've really grown up. Don't worry. Back then, I was weak after giving birth, which gave the bad people a chance to take advantage of me. Now, if anyone wants to harm you, they will have to step over my dead body first. Tang Zheng's eyebrows jumped. Her tone and expression were definitely not right. If anyone really wanted to deal with Tang Zheng, she would not hesitate to give up her life to protect him. Tang Zheng was somewhat moved. He was a person who knew how to be grateful. How could he not be moved when a person was so good to him? However, when he thought of the fact that he was abandoned back then, Tang Zheng's heart became stone again. He still had a straight face and asked, Then who wanted to harm me back then? Who wants to harm me now? Lan Yu hesitated for a moment and said, Martial Organization's Sect Master. Martial Organization's Sect Master? Didn't Martial say that I was his son? No, it's not the current Sect Master, but the previous Sect Master. When I gave birth to you, he said that you were not suited to practice martial arts. Instead, you had the 9-yang saint body that only appears once in 1,000 years. This is a very suitable physique for cultivators. The martial organization's mission is to kill all the cultivators in the world. He immediately decided to kill you to prevent you from becoming a powerful cultivator that can threaten martial artists in the future. Tang Zheng's heart was in turmoil. The previous martial organization's sect master really had a pair of fiery eyes. He actually recognized his physique. Moreover, he knew too much. He knew that this kind of rare physique would not be small and would threaten the existence of the martial organization. The previous sect master decided to sacrifice your little life in order to prevent the martial organization from being ridiculed by the world. All of this was done behind my back. By the time I found out, It was already too late. I thought that you had already fallen under his evil hands. Lan Yu said in agony. Why didn't I die? Why did I come to this ordinary balance? Lan Yu shook her head. I don't know either. I'm afraid that only one person knows the answer. Who? Your birth father, my husband, the current martial organization's sect master. Him. Tang Zhang could not help but recall that stern face. From his eyes, he could see the kindness of a father. On the contrary, it was the decisiveness of a superior. Why is he the only one who knows? Because of the jade pendant on your body. That jade pendant is the keepsake of the successor of the martial organization's sect master. Back then, your father was the successor of the martial organization's sect master. This jade pendant was always with him. Later on it appeared on your body. Therefore, only he knows what happened back then. Lan Yu also wanted to know the answer. She could not wait to fly back and ask her husband clearly. Then where did the previous sect master go? Towards this enemy, Tang Zhang could not ignore it. He's already dead. Humph, he got lucky. Since he's dead, why do you say that I'm still in danger? Although he's dead, his influence still exists. Although the martial sect has a new sect master, many old people are still thinking about the old sect master. If they knew that you weren't dead, these old people would definitely not let this matter rest. Tang Zheng frowned and said, That's not right. Since that's the case, then why is this sect master still thinking about it and asking Wu to do everything he can to get me to go to the martial sect? Isn't this throwing himself into a trap? I know that too. Lan Yu shook her head. Tang Zhang rolled his eyes, and with a flash of inspiration he said, Could it be that he wants to kill me like the previous sect master? But in the next moment, he rejected this thought. If the other party really wanted to make a move on him, then he wouldn't have sacrificed his martial arts to save his life in the 10,000 huge mountains. No, he's your father after all. How could he do anything to you? As expected, Lan Yu immediately retorted. Tang Zheng was unable to calm down after all. He asked snappily, Back then, your body was weak and you couldn't protect me. Could it be that his body is also weak? No, you don't know how powerful the old sect master is. No one is his match. In the martial sect, his words carry weight. Even the successor doesn't dare to go against him. Humph, could it be that if the other party wanted to kill his son, he would turn a blind eye to it? Tang Zheng asked disdainfully. Lan Yu was speechless. Although Tang Zheng was furious, his interest was also piqued. Back then, this matter was undoubtedly a secret of the martial sect, and no one else would know about it. Since he was involved, then he had to get to the bottom of it. No matter what happened back then, in short, this was too cruel to an infant child. Today, you guys are spouting nonsense, so don't think that I can easily forgive you guys. Furthermore, my surname is Tang now, not any other surname. Tang Zheng said resolutely. Right, what is the current martial sect master called? He was an orphan adopted by the old sect master. He followed the old sect master's surname Wu and was named Jun Shan. However, very few people know this name. Lan Yu said. Wu Jun Shan. Tang Zheng muttered and said happily, Fortunately, I didn't stay in the martial sect. Otherwise, using this surname would be a lifetime of shame. Seeing him so resolute, Lan Yu didn't correct him. Perhaps in her heart, she also had a natural resistance to this surname. Child, it's impossible for your identity to be hidden from too many people. As long as they know about this matter, they definitely won't let it go. So from now on, you have to stay by my side so that I can protect you, Lan Yu warned. I don't need your protection. Tang Zheng flatly refused. Lan Yu stubbornly said, I know you are angry at me, and I also know that you are very powerful. However, the enemy cannot be underestimated. When they join forces, the explosive power will put you in danger. I have the responsibility and the obligation to protect you. Just treat this as making up for my mistake back then. Tang Zheng didn't appreciate her kindness and coldly said, There is no need. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. I have been like this for so many years, and I will be like this in the future. Lan Yu's face darkened and said, Absolutely not. If some people in the martial sect know of little Zheng's existence, then they will definitely not hesitate to assassinate little Zhang. Wu, you must remember this, do you understand? Wu's heart trembled as he nodded and said, "Don't worry, mistress. I will definitely keep my mouth shut. You can't even tell your master. Yesterday, he contacted me and asked me where I went. I only said that I was going on a sightseeing tour to relieve my boredom. Don't let it slip out of your mouth," Lan Yu warned. "Is there a need to hide it from master?" Wu was very conflicted. Ever since she was young, she had been taught to follow her master's orders and not hide anything from him. But now, master's wife wanted her to break the rules, which made him unable to accept it. Lan Yu stared straight at Wu and said seriously, "Wu, let me tell you, this matter is of great importance. Other than the two of us, even your master must be hidden from us." "Why? He's Tang Zheng's father?" Lan Yu did not explain, but coldly snorted in her heart. She thought to herself, Xiao Zheng's disappearance all those years ago was related to him. Although she believed that her husband was a person who did not eat his own child, she still had a grudge in her heart. After that incident, a huge crack appeared in the relationship between the husband and wife. They were separated on the surface and had already lived separately. She took care of her own flowers and plants every day without any distractions. She did not care about what her husband was doing, and would only occasionally say a few words. This was because she had always blamed her husband for not taking good care of the child. She had even thought that her husband was involved in this dirty matter. In order to smoothly inherit the position of sect master, he compromised with the old sect master and used his own child's life to protect the position of sect master. But no matter what the situation was, it was not easy to completely dispel her doubts. Seeing that his mistress did not reply, Wu was incomparably conflicted. In the end, he comforted himself that his mistress would not harm his master, so he was forced to agree. Li Palace. Li Xiaotian stared blankly at the information in his heart. He could not believe it and muttered to himself, "How could he not die? That cave is unfathomably deep. It's impossible for him to survive. What is the background of that towering tree? Why is it that every time Tang Zheng sets foot in a place, such mysterious and unfathomable things will happen? Tang Zheng escaped from death, so it won't be easy to kill him again." Suddenly, she said curiously, "Strange, why did Wu also run to the ordinary balance, and even run towards Tang Zheng? What's strange is that he actually went with sect master's wife Lan Yu. It is said that Lan Yu has been in the martial sect for decades, never leaving the martial sect. This time, the sun must have risen from the west. She actually left the martial sect for Tang Zheng. What is she doing?" Even though Li Xiaotian was meticulous and cunning, he still could not guess the reason. "Disciple, what's making you so worried?" Suddenly, a slightly old voice sounded from behind her. Li Xiaotian's entire body was startled, as if he had a spring. He immediately shot up from the chair, turned around to look at the person who came, and respectfully bowed. "Palace Master, you've come out of seclusion?" "Yes, this time seclusion was very fruitful. What made you so worried? This kind of situation is rare." An old woman walked in from outside the door. She did not have a fierce aura, just like an old woman from the countryside. Her silver hair was coiled on top of her head, and she supported herself with a walking stick. She staggered over and sat on the chair. This was the famous palace lord of the Li Palace. In a different environment, if others saw her, they would definitely not associate her with the palace lord of the Li Palace, because she was too ordinary. Ordinary to the point that she could be submerged in a crowd, unable to stir up a single bubble. When the fearless Li Xiaotian faced the seemingly ordinary Li Palace master, he changed from his usual arrogance, and was as obedient as a little tabby cat. "Reporting to Palace Master. This time I encountered a difficult problem. I originally thought that as a person, I would have no chance of surviving, but he miraculously survived," Li Xiaotian said in a deep voice. "Oh, who has such great ability?" "Tang Zheng. I remember you mentioning him before." "Yes, he is a cultivator, and an extremely powerful one with great potential. Thus, I decided to eliminate him." "Then it seems that you consider him a threat?" "Yes, an enormous threat." Li Xiaotian nodded. The palace master's old eyes slightly narrowed and said, "For you to be so afraid, he is indeed not an ordinary person." "Yes, even the martial organization's sect master's wife, Lan Yu, has gone to find him." "Lan Yu?" The palace master's hand holding the walking stick tightened involuntarily.
She raised the corner of her eyes, and there seemed to be a flash of light in her dim eyes.
Yes, this is the information I just received. It is said that Lan Yu, for the sake of Tang Zhang, went on a killing spree and caused a ruckus in the Dragon Group's base. At that time, if I had left a bit later, perhaps I would have met her. Li Xiaotian said. Lan Yu has not left the martial organization for dozens of years, but she actually made an exception for one person. Interesting. Pass down the order. We must investigate the ins and outs of this matter. Lan Yu, this woman, cannot be underestimated, and we must avoid alerting the enemy. I want to know what medicine she is selling in her gourd. Yes. In addition, I will be leaving for a few days. During this time, you will continue to take care of the daily affairs of the Li Palace in my place. The Palace Master warned. Li Xiaotian asked doubtfully, Palace Master, why are you leaving the palace this time? Can this disciple go with you? The Palace Master casually glanced at her, and Li Xiaotian felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave.
It was as if 10,000 swords were hanging over her head, and could fall at any time and pierce her full of holes. She was in fear and trepidation and hurriedly said, This disciple is concerned about the Palace Master, and has no other intentions.
Humph. Just do your job well. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The Palace Master said coldly. Although she still seemed old and senile, and did not even have the slightest trace of a king's aura, Li Xiaotian felt fear from the bottom of her heart. This was because she was too clear about the Palace Master's temperament and powerful strength. She could not even think of resisting.
Yes, this disciple will remember.
The Palace Master stood up, supported herself with her walking stick, and hobbled out. Watching the Palace Master walk away, the chill on Li Xiaotian's body gradually dissipated.
She straightened her body and returned to being the cold and black-bellied holy maiden of the Li Palace.
Every year at this time, Master leaves the palace alone. No one knows what she's going to do. This secret truly makes one curious. I don't know when I'll learn of this secret. Li Xiaotian softly muttered to herself. The Palace Master left the Li Palace and walked on the mountain road. The rugged mountain road was like flat ground under her feet. With a casual tap of her walking stick, she traversed several meters, leaving behind only a shadow on the mountain road, and then floated down the mountain. 3 days later, she arrived at a mountain stream. A clear spring flowed down from the top of the mountain, forming a small lake. The lake water was clear, like a dark green gem. It adorned the mountains and added a quiet and secluded feeling, causing one to be intoxicated by the beautiful scenery of the lake and mountains. On a rock beside the lake, a person sat quietly. He wore a bamboo hat and a straw raincoat on his back. He was like a statue, motionless. His hand held a fishing rod, and a thin fishing line sank into the lake. However, there were no fish floating on the surface of the lake. It was unknown how he determined whether or not a fish had taken the bait. The Li Palace Master walked straight to the fisherman and stopped behind him. However, the fisherman remained motionless, as if he did not hear her footsteps. He stared intently at the lake. Chapter 531. The green light that swept towards Elder Angler was extremely sharp and powerful, bringing with it a series of sonic booms. The Li Palace princess did not move, not even interested in looking at it, as if she knew that this azure light could not harm Elder Angler in the slightest. Elder Angler shook his wrist and used the fishing rod to block in front of him. The azure light struck the fishing rod, causing a burst of blood. With a sharp scream, the azure light hurriedly dove into the water. Evil creature, I've been waiting for you for many days. Do you want to run away like this? Elder Angler softly muttered as he swung the fishing rod back. The fishing line danced, and just as the azure light was about to sink into the water, it was fiercely smashed into the ground by the fishing line. This azure light was actually a large azure snake. Its 2 eyes glowed with a dark light, and its sharp fangs were glaring fiercely at Elder Angler. Evil creature, you've recently injured quite a few mountain animals. Today is the day you die. Elder Angler lightly said. The large snake seemed to understand his words and struggled to swim into the lake. However, its upper jaw was hooked by the fishing hook and it could not escape. With a shake of the fishing line, the large snake lightly smashed into a sharp stone on the ground. With a clatter, its tongue was smashed into pieces, dripping with blood. It struggled for a while, but then it completely stopped moving. Elder Angler shook his wrist, and the fishing line quickly wrapped around the fishing rod. Only then did he turn his head to look at the Li Palace master. Outsiders would involuntarily feel fear when facing the Li Palace master, but Elder Angler did not move at all. His face was covered by a bamboo hat, so his appearance could not be clearly seen.
However, there was no doubt that he was calm and fearless.
The Li Palace master looked at him and pointed at the corpse of the large snake, asking, "How did you have the leisure to come down the mountain to do such a small thing?"
Elder Angler replied, "This is not a small matter.
You don't leave the Li Palace all year round, so you don't know that recently, the world has not been peaceful.
There have been many monsters."
The Li Palace master's eyes flashed with astonishment, asking, "This beast has not become a monster yet, right?"
"Its intelligence has already been developed.
Becoming a monster is only a matter of time. It's best to leave early to avoid future troubles." Elder Angler said, "I don't know what's going on in the world, but I heard that the Northeast is even less peaceful. Not only are there monsters, but also people are suffering."
"Is it really that serious?"
Elder Angler didn't answer this question because it was too unnecessary. "Then have you sent someone to the Northeast?" Gen 13 has already gone.
Gen Xiaofan, the sword god is finally willing to send out his beloved last disciple to carry out a mission.
With him going, it will naturally be a piece of cake. The palace master clearly had confidence in this Gen Xiaofan. The sword god has been recuperating during this period of time. I believe you have also heard the news.
He fought a great battle with that mysterious cultivator and suffered some injuries.
Elder Angler said. It is said that the cultivator is called Tian Chanzi.
Is the great lord not allowed to avenge the sword god and let him get away with it?
The palace master asked curiously. Elder Angler raised his head slightly, revealing a scar. This scar extended from his left cheek to his right cheek, running across his entire face, making him look extremely terrifying.
He glanced at the palace lord and said faintly, "The great lord is a great strategist.
His every move has his own decisions. Actually, you and I can see through it."
The palace master revealed an expression of reverence and said, "That is reasonable.
We cannot recklessly guess the great lord's intentions. I will first go see the great lord, so I won't chat with you." The palace master lightly tapped the ground with his walking stick and flew several zhang away. He directly crossed the mountain stream and rushed towards the peak.
"Let's go together." Elder Angler lightly spat out these two words. With a light shake of his wrist, the fishing line flew out and wrapped around a tree trunk.
With a sudden swing, Elder Angler shot out like an arrow. In the next second, he was standing beside the palace master. The two of them displayed their respective abilities and climbed up the mountain peak that wasn't too majestic after a short while. At the peak of the mountain, the cold wind was biting cold and the ground was covered with white snow. A black hut stood at the peak of the mountain. There wasn't a single speck of snow on the black hut, which was particularly eye-catching in this vast white world. The two stepped on the snow without leaving a trace and arrived in front of the black room. The pitch-black door slowly opened on its own. Elder Angler stopped at the door while the Li Palace master walked in step by step. The door automatically closed and the room sank into darkness.
Whoosh! A flame rose into the air and several oil lamps lit up in the four corners of the room, illuminating the black room.
This black room was not spacious and empty. It could be said that there were only 4 walls.
Other than a chair at the very front, there was nothing else.
A person walked out from the darkness and directly sat down on the chair.
This person wore a mask and looked deeply at the palace master, saying, "You've come."
His voice was desolate and deep, like the ripples of an echo in the valley.
There was an indescribable mysterious feeling. The Li Palace master knelt down on one knee and respectfully said, "Greetings, great lord."
If the people of the Li Palace saw this scene, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. The palace master, who had always been high and mighty, was actually kneeling down to a masked person. Moreover, it was done willingly and respectfully.
"Rise," the great lord said.
"Thank you, great lord. You've gained a lot from this time's seclusion. You've actually reached the 8th level of the Great Master Realm.
Perhaps in your lifetime, you can break through the shackles of your body and usher in an unprecedented realm, Martial King."
The great lord said with praise. The palace master's face revealed a trace of yearning and said, "This subordinate has always wanted to ask the great lord about something." "You want to ask what it's like to be a Martial King, right?"
The great lord seemed to be able to see through her heart and asked. The palace master was not surprised in the slightest and said with satisfaction, "Yes.
When you reach that realm you will naturally know."
The great lord said unfathomably. The palace master lowered her head and a trace of disappointment flashed across her face.
"This time, I was about to give you a mission. I heard that something happened in the martial sect and I need you to go and deal with it."
The great lord said.
"What happened in the martial sect?"
"You will naturally know when you go." The palace master did not dare to ask again.
The world is getting more and more complicated. Even the tree of life has reappeared in the world. Are the cultivators really going to return?
The great lord said to himself.
No way.
The palace master's beautiful face turned pale.
The cultivators have been expelled. How can they return?
Nothing is absolute.
In the past, the cultivators could only be expelled because of the favorable conditions. Now the world has changed. It's no longer the same as before.
The great lord sighed.
Is the great lord worried about Tian Chanzi and the 100 Faces Star Lord?
The palace master asked.
Tian Chanzi is not a threat. It's just a small matter. The 100 Faces Star Lord should be wary. After all, he is a figure from the Great Desolation era. As the saying goes, old people become shrewd. Don't be fooled by his childlike appearance. His threat is incomparable.
The great lord said.
The palace master said in a deep voice, "This subordinate's disciple has seen this person before. This person is temperamental and is indeed a troublesome guy. Not only is he troublesome, but he is also very smart."
He did not rely on his powerful cultivation to rush out of the 10,000 mountains.
Instead, he quietly lurked in the 10,000 mountains. Even I have no way of knowing what he is doing. This kind of person is indeed a formidable opponent. At first, I thought he would rush out and was prepared to deal with him. However, all of my plans fell through.
The great lord said regretfully.
"Do you want this subordinate to lure him out?" The palace master volunteered. "Hee, your little bit of skill cannot withstand a single blow from him. Why send yourself to your death?" The great lord chuckled. The palace master did not feel indignant because of this sentence.
Instead, he said guiltily, "This subordinate is useless. My strength is not enough."
"I don't blame you. Perhaps this is just my groundless fears." Back then, the martial sect leader had already eliminated the infant. Who else has the ability to let all the cultivators of the sky beyond heaven return?
The great lord said suspiciously.
The palace master's heart thumped. He could not help but remember the crisis a few decades ago. The martial sect's disciple gave birth to an infant. It was actually the rarely seen nine-young saint body. From ancient times until now, the nine-young saint body was a cultivation genius. A person with this kind of physique would undoubtedly become a powerful cultivator in the future. Many mysterious and powerful cultivators were not very worried about the return of cultivators because they were confident that no one could do it. However, they never would have thought that after the cultivators were expelled, there would still be someone with a nine-young saint body in this world. This really made these powerful cultivators flabbergasted. Fortunately, this infant was known by the cultivators from the moment it was born.
This was a fortune in the midst of misfortune. It allowed them to strangle this dangerous factor in the cradle.
As a result, they did just that. They painfully made a move on an infant. Of course, the number of people in this world who knew of this matter could be counted on one hand. The palace master thought that the great lord was worrying too much. The infant was already dead. The crisis had already been resolved. "Great lord, when will you meet Wu Junshan? The Li Palace and the martial sect were originally your chess pieces. To not let Wu Junshan know of this secret, martial arts has always been outside. It is not beneficial for us to do anything. Soon. Don't look at how Wu Junshan is younger than you. He is more shrewd than you. If I don't see through him, I will not easily show myself. These past few years, I have been observing him.
Those old people by his side have also been observing his every word and action.
However, these past few years, he has not made any mistakes. Then isn't he worthy of our trust?"
The great lord chuckled and said, "Actually, this time I asked you to go to the martial sect for this matter."
The martial sect has sent back news that there seems to be a problem within the martial sect. It seems to be related to this sect master. I want you to go and investigate and remove any hidden dangers."
The great lord ordered.
"This subordinate understands. Whether or not Wu Junshan can enter the Great Lord's eyes will depend on this. His opportunity is right in front of him. It all depends on what he chooses. The palace master said, I hope he does not make the wrong choice. Otherwise, he will be consigned to eternal damnation. The Great Lord chuckled and declined to comment. The Li Palace Master said his goodbyes and left the Black Room. The door closed once again. Elder Angler was still standing at the door. He glanced at her and said, You're leaving just like that? I am not as idle as you. I have a life of hard work. The Palace Master made a rare joke. Chapter 532. Beijing. Su Yingtian saw Xing Feng. Xing Feng was very careful and ordinary people would not know where he was. Su Yingtian had to spend a lot of effort to see him. The two of them sat facing each other and Xing Feng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes, Chief Su has graced me with your presence. Could it be that you have brought someone to take my life? I have no interest in your life. Su Yingtian said without any change in expression. Xing Feng did not care and coldly snorted. Is that so? Then why did you bring Tang Zheng to the base and cause my base to be destroyed? A soldier should do things openly. What kind of ability is it to capture someone's family to threaten them? Su Yingtian said. Humph. This is the result of going against the dragon group. I want to kill the chicken to warn the monkey and let the world see. Moreover, he went against the dragon group, which is the same as going against the country. His family is the family of the criminal. What's wrong with me capturing him? You don't need to speak in such a dignified manner in front of me. Moreover, your dragon group does not represent the country. Don't blow your own trumpet. Su Yingtian retorted. You have caused the dragon group to suffer heavy losses and harmed the country's interests. I haven't even reported you and you have the guts to come find me. If you want to complain then go ahead, but I am here to tell you that if you still want to act alone and fight to the death with Tang Zheng, then it won't be as simple as a base, but rather a disaster. When the time comes, the higher-ups will blame you. Not only you, but even the person behind you will be implicated. You should think it over clearly. Su Yingtian said without any trace of politeness. Xing Feng's face sank as he stared at Su Yingtian and said, Are you threatening me? You are right. It is a threat. Su Yingtian said frankly. You are going to support that brat and go against my dragon group? All I know is that Tang Zheng's actions did not threaten this country. Instead, it was your willful actions that brought this country into danger, Su Yingtian said fiercely. Xing Feng's expression kept changing as he stared at Su Yingtian. He wanted to see through his thoughts, but in the end, he found that it was futile. With Su Yingtian's shrewdness, Xing Feng could not find any useful information. Then what do you want? Let's mind our own business and walk our own paths. If you dare to have any ideas about Tang Zheng again, I promise you that I will show you the power of the National Security Agency. Don't think that the National Security Agency's decades of accumulation can be compared to your dragon group's dozens of days. Su Yingtian said without any trace of politeness. Xing Feng's eyes were about to spit fire, but he didn't act rashly. Judging from Su Yingtian's expression, he was telling the truth. Although Xing Feng was usually arrogant and didn't even put the National Security Agency in his eyes, he knew the capabilities of the National Security Agency. Just like what Su Yingtian said, the National Security Agency had been established for many years and its strength was unimaginable. It wasn't something that the Dragon Group could shake with just a few days of accumulation. Okay, I promise you. But let me give you a piece of advice. It might not be a good thing to be associated with this brat. In the end, the National Security Agency might be destroyed in your hands. Xing Feng said coldly. You don't have to worry about that. Su Yingtian stood up and left, not giving Xing Feng another glance. Seeing Su Yingtian leave, Xing Feng's face turned ashen. Suddenly, he roared in anger. Fuck, surnamed Su, there will be a day when I will step on you and crush you into pieces. Creak. A small door at the side slowly opened, and a Westerner strolled out. He said with a smile, Team Leader Xing, now you understand my good intentions, right? In Wuxia, if you want to have the right to speak, you need to have real power. Only the one with the harder fist can set the rules of the game. I can give you a hand and let your strength far surpass Su Yingtian. Xing Feng suspiciously looked at him and asked, What's your purpose? I want to make friends with group leader Xing. Make friends. Xing Feng was also someone who had been in the government for most of his life. How could he believe such a blatant lie? The other party was the young lord of the Rockefeller family, Louis. He traveled thousands of miles to Wuxia, so why would he make friends with him and help him for no reason? Actually, speaking of which, team leader Xing and I have a common enemy, Louis said as his eyes narrowed into slits. Who? Tang Zheng. Xing Feng suddenly understood.
He knew a thing or two about the conflict between Tang Zhang and Louis, so he asked, "Oh, then what method do you have to get rid of him?"
Louis said in a low voice, "Group leader Xing, Tang Zhang is insignificant and can't do much. Our cooperation is the most important thing. If we don't get rid of Tang Zhang, our cooperation can't be discussed." Group leader Xing really hates Tang Zhang to the core. All right, since he is our common enemy, then let's get rid of him quickly. Louis hesitated for a moment, then agreed. Xing Feng's lips curled into a proud smile, and he praised, "Now that's the attitude of cooperation. However, don't treat me like a fool. How do you want to help me? Tell me what conditions you want. If you don't say it now, I won't acknowledge it in the future." Haha, group leader Xing is a straightforward person. Then I won't hide it. I want the core technology of the mecha. What? Xing Feng was shocked.
He hadn't expected the other to be so greedy and ask for such a condition.
This condition won't do. Change it. Louis shook his head and said arrogantly, "Group leader Xing, this is my condition.
Actually, in terms of technological prowess, the Western Empire is far superior to your Wuxia.
This time it was by chance that you obtained the mecha technology. Mecha technology is a national secret. How can we give it to you so easily?" Xing Feng continued to refuse. Louis was unmoved. He smiled and said, "Group leader Xing also understands that this technology is a national secret, so this technology won't have much practical benefit for you. Do you think I'm right?" Xing Feng's expression changed. These words had hit the nail on the head. Louis sneered disdainfully in his heart. These bureaucrats were indeed the same. They were selfish and insatiable. As long as you poked the G-spot in their hearts, they would be at your mercy. They would not be able to withstand a single blow. In life, the most important thing is to fight for your own benefits. No matter how much benefits the government has, they will still belong to the government and not in your own hands. Sometimes, people still have to think for themselves. Louis purposely sighed meaningfully. Xing Feng's eyelids twitched.
He stared at him with burning eyes and said, "What do you mean by that?"
Louis smiled mysteriously and said, "Group leader Xing is a smart person. Of course you understand what I mean." It was very simple. Louis wanted Xing Feng to betray the interests of the country and gain personal benefits for himself. In other words, he was harming the interests of the country. No matter which country it was, there were many officials like this. The ambition in Xing Feng's bones had already taken root and sprouted. He wanted to take the dragon group for himself. Only when he had a strong power in his hands would others not dare to do anything to him. He didn't want to be a puppet for the rest of his life.
There was no doubt that Louis's words had struck a chord in his heart, and he was hesitant.
Looking at Xing Feng's fluctuating expression, Louis walked to the sofa and sat down. He crossed his legs and waited for Xing Feng. A long time later, Xing Feng abruptly turned his head and stared at Louis. "What can you give me? I can let you truly control a powerful force, such as the dragon group." Louis said solemnly. "What do you mean by truly controlling?" Xing Feng asked. "Let the dragon group become a blade in your hand. They will only listen to your orders and attack wherever you point." Xing Feng's heart leaped. Wasn't this the result that he had been waiting for? Although his control over the dragon group was already very strong, and even his adjutant, Kai Gue Bin, had been kicked away by him, he still couldn't control the dragon group. But when it came to major issues, an order from above would completely surpass his usual cultivation. No matter how much he tried to win people's hearts, there would always be someone who didn't listen to his orders at the critical moment. There were even some spies in the dragon group. If he did something overboard, some people would know. At that time, a single order could remove him from his position. Pinching him to death would be like pinching an ant. He understood this principle too well. Everything he had now was based on the support of his backer. Without this foundation, even if he built a skyscraper,
It would be a castle in the air that could be destroyed at any time. But if it was really like what Lewis said, and the dragon group became a blade in his hand, then no one would be able to take it away.
Then his strength would not be affected by others. Wasn't this what he dreamed of?
Although his expression was calm, his heart was already in turmoil.
He asked, "Words are not proof. I don't believe that you can do this. People's hearts are hard to predict. Don't tell me that you can bribe everyone?"
Haha, Group Leader Xing. There are not many things in this world that are impossible.
Isn't there a saying in your country?
Nothing in this world is impossible for those who set their mind on it.
I can tell you clearly that you can make everyone listen to your orders. Seeing that Lewis did not seem to be joking, Xing Feng finally couldn't help but be moved. He curiously asked, "How can it be done?" "You just said something wrong. We don't want to bribe everyone. We want to control everyone and make them treat you as their master. How can a servant go against their master's orders? Please tell me more details." Xing Feng lowered his voice and looked at the other side eagerly. Lewis said in his heart, "You finally took the bait." Without changing his expression, he said, "Soul control technique. Control a person's soul and make them your slave. They will only listen to your orders."
Of course, normally this person is no different from an ordinary person. But a seed will be planted in their heart.
Xing Feng's body trembled. A chill ran from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. He asked, "Is there really such a method in this world?" "Of course. I can teach you right away. This isn't martial arts, but magic, right? This is a secret technique. It doesn't have to be used by cultivators.
Ordinary people like you and me can also do it."
Xing Feng understood the power of the soul control technique. Looking at Lewis, he had a fear of facing a devil. If he used this technique on himself, then wouldn't he also become a puppet? Of course, he didn't want to become a puppet. But if he didn't agree, then the other party might really become a puppet. He understood how vicious these Western people were. Moreover, this was also something he dreamed of. Thus he clenched his teeth and nodded, "Okay, I agree." Happy cooperation. Chapter 533. Ordinary Balance. In the streets and alleys, the atmosphere of the new year was getting thicker and thicker. It was already the 28th of December. Tang Zheng prepared to buy New Year goods. In the past, in order to save money, he and his grandfather lived a simple life every year. This time, he was prepared to do a good job.
However, the only thing that made him feel that there were some flaws was that after Lan Yu personally came to visit his grandfather in the morning, the two of them muttered something.
The old man suggested that Lan Yu stay for the new year and Lan Yu happily agreed. Thus, this time, there was an extra Lan Yu to buy New Year goods and Marshall was sent back to the martial organization by Lan Yu, allowing her to go back to the martial organization's sect master so that he would not worry. Marshall reluctantly gave Tang Zheng a few glances, as if to demonstrate to Tang Zheng that he should not go overboard and disrespect his master's wife. Tang Zheng acted as if he did not see it and ignored it. Marshall was so angry that he almost rolled up his sleeves and rushed up to fight with him. After Marshall left, only Tang Zheng and Lan Yu were left. In order to avoid awkwardness, he called out Feng Shishir. The three of them went to buy New Year goods together. Lan Yu always had a smile on her face as she looked at Tang Zheng with a gaze that seemed to be able to melt people, showing the demeanor of a loving mother. Feng Shishir secretly sized up the two of them and playfully stuck out her tongue. She understood that there was a grudge between the two that had not been resolved, so she obediently held onto Tang Zheng's arm and shuttled through the streets. "Little Zheng. Shishir. It's New Year. I'll buy you a few new sets of clothes." Lan Yu had an idea and gently said, "No need." Tang Zheng expressionlessly refused. Lan Yu looked at Feng Shishir for help, appearing somewhat helpless and pitiful. Feng Shishir's heart softened as she shook the arm in her embrace and advised, "This is also Auntie's kind intentions. You should just accept it." "Yes, I also want to buy a few sets for the old man. The old man has worked hard for so long. It's the end of the year, so he should buy a few sets of new clothes," Lan Yu said. These words struck a chord in Tang Zheng's heart. He glanced at Lan Yu and thought to himself, "You're quite considerate." Thus, he silently nodded in agreement. Lan Yu was overjoyed and gradually understood the position of the old master in Tang Zheng's eyes. The more he cared about the old master, the higher the impression in Tang Zheng's eyes. The few of them walked into a high-end clothing store nearby. Lan Yu took a fancy to a few sets of clothes at a glance. She casually pointed and said, "Take those clothes and try them on." The shop assistant could tell at a glance that these people were not in need of money. Since a big customer had arrived, she immediately began to serve them attentively. Lan Yu held a set of clothes and gestured at Tang Zheng's body, saying, "This one is not bad. Try it on in the fitting room." Tang Zheng glanced at the price and said, "There's no need to buy such an expensive one." "It's not expensive. Even if I bought all the clothes in this store for you, it wouldn't be expensive. Moreover, it's too little. Just tell me what you like. I want to make up for the decades of unfulfilled responsibilities," Lan Yu emotionally said. When the shop assistant heard these words, she looked at Tang Zheng with a gaze that was filled with stars. She thought to herself, just what kind of person is this handsome guy to have such a unique temperament favored by such a beautiful young woman? Having money to burn. Tang Zheng curled his lips and said. Lan Yu revealed an awkward expression, but she did not flare up. She continued to smile and said, "If you don't like this store, then let's go to another one. I also feel that this store's clothes aren't that great." The shop assistant's heart sank. Her big customer was ruined. This handsome guy was too hard to serve. Who did he think he was? In truth, this brand was already considered a luxury brand in the country. Many nouveau riches liked to choose this store's clothing. At the very least, the customers who were shopping at the side were dressed well. They were definitely not rich. When they heard Lan Yu's words, their expressions clearly did not look good. However, most of them did not flare up. They only glared at Tang Zheng with disdain. But there were exceptions to everything. A fashionable woman wearing sunglasses that covered most of her face curled her lips and disdainfully said, "What are you pretending to be poor for? If you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. You still have the nerve to come here and pretend to be rich. Hee, there are too many of these kinds of people in the country right now. It's no wonder that so many foreigners look down on Wuxia people." A man beside her laughed arrogantly. "Young Master June, you've been abroad for so many years. You must not be used to seeing such things when you return, right?" The woman in sunglasses looked up at the man and asked in a fawning manner. The man laughed arrogantly and said, "Of course. But the quality of the people in the country is so low. What can I do?" "That's right. As a fellow countryman of these people, I feel terrible," the woman in sunglasses said sweetly. Tang Zheng wrinkled his eyebrows. He was already suppressing a wave of anger in his heart. These two people's slanderous words simply hit the muzzle of his gun. If you can't stand it, then get out yourself. No one wants you to look. If you want to go abroad to be a dog, no one will stop you. Don't bark here and disturb people's peace," Tang Zheng said in a bad mood. These words were like poking a hornet's nest. Originally, the two people were only prepared to be sarcastic and treat it as entertainment. They have already done this kind of thing many times. Most people would choose to swallow their anger, but Tang Zheng actually bluntly turned the tables on them. The two people were furious. The woman in sunglasses hugged the man's arm, her towering breasts continuously rubbing against him. She said sweetly, "Young Master June, what did you hear him say? He actually dares to scold us." The man's eyes flashed with an ominous light. He waved his hand outside the store. Two black-clothed bodyguards walked in and respectfully bowed to the man. "Young Master June, teach them a lesson. Let them remember in the future," the man ordered. "Yes." The two large men like iron towers walked straight towards Tang Zheng's group. Without saying a word, their hammer-like fists smashed over. Tang Zheng coldly snorted. He was preparing to counterattack and teach the other side a lesson, but there was one person who moved faster than him. Lan Yu's feet slipped and blocked the bodyguard's path. She placed her hands on the other's shoulders and the two people flew out of the store like sandbags. They heavily fell on the floor, their heads broken and bleeding. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. This scene made everyone temporarily lose their ability to speak. They stared at Lan Yu dumbfoundedly. Her frail body couldn't be compared to the two bodyguards, but the strength she erupted with was truly terrifying. How could a young woman with an elegant temperament have such terrifying battle strength? The man was also stunned. His pupils couldn't help but shrink as he said, "Who are you?" Lan Yu turned a deaf ear to him and said,
You dare to scold my son?
You're really tired of living. Then I'll do as you wish. Step by step, she approached the other side. The aura of Mount Tai pressing down on the other side made the other side's chest feel like a boulder was pressing down on them. Their faces instantly became as white as paper. The woman in sunglasses trembled. She desperately grabbed the man's arm and screamed in panic. You! What are you doing? If you don't want to live, then die. Lan Yu stretched out her finger and lightly pointed. However, Tang Zhang could faintly hear the sound of wind and thunder. If they were hit, then with the two people's bodies, they would immediately lose their lives. He didn't expect Lan Yu's reaction to be so agitated. He couldn't help but be a little surprised. He didn't know that Lan Yu was very protective of her son. She had always blamed herself for not protecting her son well, resulting in the separation of mother and son for more than 20 years. So now she felt a little scared. If anyone dared to threaten Tang Zhang, she would definitely not show mercy. Not only did these two people speak rudely, but they also let their followers teach Tang Zhang a lesson. This was stepping on the high-tension line in her heart. Of course she was going to explode. Moreover, it was anger that had been accumulated over the years. How could these two people withstand it? Tang Zhang's eyelids suddenly jumped. Lan Yu really did not show any mercy. Although he also felt that these two people were repulsive, their crimes did not warrant death. So, he immediately shouted, "Stop!" Lan Yu's finger stopped in front of the two people. The two people looked like they had just returned from the gates of hell. Their bodies were dripping with sweat and trembling non-stop. Lan Yu turned her head to look at Tang Zhang and asked, "How do you want to deal with them?" "Their crimes don't warrant death. Just casually teach them a lesson," Tang Zhang said. Lan Yu nodded and said, "The two of you are lucky. My son is merciful and spared your lives. However, the death penalty can be avoided, but the punishment cannot be forgiven." As soon as her voice fell, 2 slaps rang out. Finger marks immediately appeared on the two people's faces. The sunglasses of the woman in sunglasses also fell to the ground and shattered, revealing her true face. It had to be said that she did indeed have a beautiful face. Moreover, it was very pure. However, compared to this pure face, her words and actions formed a contrast. Even if this kind of person had a beautiful appearance, it was still just a rotten skin bag. Wah, Lu Yanran. So she is Lu Yanran. Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out. Everyone's eyes quickly focused on the face of the woman in sunglasses. Feng Shishir also looked at the other person in shock. She covered her mouth and said in disbelief, "It's her. A big star." The woman in sunglasses quickly covered her face and shook her head in denial. "I'm not her. You've got the wrong person." She ran out in panic, but her feet slipped and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. Another cry of surprise rang out. However, she did not dare to stay. She crawled up and covered her face before continuing to run. Scram! Lan Yu glared at the man. The man felt as if he had been pardoned. He did not even dare to breathe loudly. He quickly rushed out, ignoring the unconscious bodyguards on the ground. "Is this woman very famous?" Tang Zhang curiously asked. Feng Shishir said in disbelief, "Wah, you actually don't know her? Are you from another planet?" She is currently a popular A-list female star. She is known as the Fairy Sister and is the representative of the youthful Jade Girls. Tang Zhang curled his lips. He really did not care about celebrities in the entertainment industry. Before, he was wholeheartedly focused on his studies. How could he have the leisure to pay attention to these things? However, when he heard that this person was known as the Fairy Sister, the youthful Jade Girl, he could not help but snort. The entertainment industry was really a mix of bad people. If this kind of person could be called a youthful Jade Girl, it would be more appropriate to call her a lustful woman. Her temperament could not be compared to Ling. One was on the ground while the other was in the sky. If Ling enters the entertainment industry, she will definitely be able to beat this Lu Yanran. He was full of confidence. That's right. I heard that her hometown is ordinary balance. So it must be her. This time we offended a big star. Will there be any problems? Feng Shishir nervously asked. Chapter 534.
Lan Yu heard this and said with a murderous look, "Daring to have any ideas about you, that is seeking death."
When the others heard this, they were silent like cicadas in winter. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Many customers left the store one after another. Seeing the shop assistant's respectful eyes and not daring to breathe, Tang Zhang could not help but feel bored. He held Feng Shesher's hand and walked out. Lan Yu hurriedly chased after them and suggested with a smile, "Let's go to another clothing store." When Tang Zhang walked into the fitting room with a set of clothes, Lan Yu let out a sigh of relief and muttered to herself, "This is the first time I've bought clothes for my son. I really am an incompetent mother." Feng Shesher advised, "Auntie, this is not your fault. There will be opportunities in the future." "But he did not forgive me," Lan Yu said with disappointment. Feng Shesher held Lan Yu's hand and said softly, "Let time heal this wound. He is actually a very kind person. He has seen and remembered all your efforts." Lan Yu smiled confidently and said, "Thank you, Shesher. You really are a good girl." Feng Shesher smiled faintly. Creak. The fitting room's door opened and Tang Zhang walked out looking brand new. As the saying goes, Buddha relies on gold and people rely on clothes. Tang Zhang was originally a little handsome, but now his temperament had changed greatly. When he walked out, everyone could not help but feel their eyes light up. He was not shockingly handsome, but the temperament that was imperceptibly revealed made people feel deep respect and unwilling to look away. "Too handsome," Lan Yu praised from the bottom of her heart. She subconsciously wanted to straighten his collar. When her hand touched his collar, the two of them were stunned. Because this action was too natural and too intimate, Tang Zhang did not feel disgusted. Instead, he felt a faint warmth. Lan Yu nervously retracted her hand and said in a panic, "Sorry, I couldn't help myself." It was the most simple feeling of a mother for her son. It was human nature. Tang Zhang kept a straight face and didn't say much. He straightened his collar and asked Feng Shesher, "What do you think?" Feng Shesher's eyes sparkled. To be honest, she and Tang Zhang had known each other for a long time. She was very familiar with his appearance. But looking at the person she loved standing in front of her at this moment, she couldn't help but fall into a trance. This was completely different from the dull Tang Zhang who only knew how to study in high school. Not only did his appearance change slightly, but his temperament was also completely different. If a former classmate saw him, they definitely wouldn't dare to recognize him. Of course, it was a good thing that her boyfriend had become more handsome and attractive. Feng Shesher smiled and nodded. "Very handsome. Auntie has good taste. This set of clothes seems to be tailor-made for you." When Lan Yu heard this, she also smiled like a flower. "Then buy it." Tang Zhang glanced at the overjoyed Lan Yu and said expressionlessly. Immediately, Lan Yu became even happier. After visiting a few clothing stores, they all had their gains. They carried bags of various sizes, but Lan Yu clearly carried the most. This was because she snatched most of the bags from Tang Zhang's hands, as if she was afraid that Tang Zhang would be tired. If not for Tang Zhang's final insistence, she probably wouldn't even let Tang Zhang carry anything. Tang Zhang couldn't help but roll his eyes. This was simply spoiling. A loving mother spoiled the son. A child raised by such a mother was absolutely spoiled. "Where are we going now?" Lan Yu asked. "Home." Tang Zhang stopped a taxi and the three of them sat in. Lan Yu rolled her eyes and said, "Little Zhang, I'll buy you a car. It'll be convenient for you to travel. What kind of car do you like?" "I'm a student. Why would I drive? I see that there are also students who drive. It's more convenient to have a car." "No need. Moreover, if I want to buy a car, I have the money to buy it myself." Tang Zhang was speechless. Lan Yu seemed to want to use sugar-coated bullets to corrode him. There were all kinds of branded clothes and cars. Did he become a rich second generation? He couldn't help but laugh. When they returned home, Tang Dahai was also back. During the Spring Festival, his recycle bin was temporarily closed for vacation. This was his last day of work. "Old man, these are the clothes I bought for you. Try them on." Lan Yu carried a few bags and handed them to Tang Dahai. Tang Dahai retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted and resentfully said, "How can this be? I'm an old man. Why would I wear those? It's a waste of money. No need, no need." It's not worth much. Old man, just take it. You raised little Zheng and now it's time for you to enjoy life. Lan Yu said. Tang Dahai's eyes were a little red.
He glanced at Tang Zheng and embarrassedly said, I still have clothes.
Why would I need to wear new clothes? Tang Zheng was the clearest about his grandfather's situation. In the past, it was rare for him to buy new clothes. Many of them were washed until they were white. Grandfather, since I bought it for you, just accept it. Tang Zheng advised.
Hearing his grandson say this, Tang Dahai embarrassedly accepted the clothes and hurriedly thanked, Then I really can't thank you enough.
This is what I should do. Lan Yu's heart also softened. She thought that little Zhang was lucky to have met such a grandfather. The atmosphere eased a lot. Tang Dahai put away the clothes and conveniently left Lan Yu to eat. He then went into the kitchen to cook. Lan Yu also enthusiastically entered the kitchen, saying that she wanted to help the old man. The two sat on the sofa. Feng Shishir leaned into Tang Zheng's embrace and looked at the kitchen. She lowered her voice and said, Auntie is pretty good. You don't have to be so cold to her.
Don't get involved in this matter.
Feng Shishir pouted and said, Mother and son are connected by heart. What kind of deep hatred can there be? Moreover, Auntie has always wanted to make up for it. You should give her a chance. Tang Zheng's expression did not change as he declined to comment. Feng Shishir glared at him and said, Stubborn. You don't know how to be flexible. My matter with her is too complicated. It is not something that can be fixed with just a few words. It is also not something that can be fixed with some small favors. Since there is a crack, then work hard to fix it. You can't always keep people 1,000 miles away. Feng Shishir retorted. Tang Zheng lowered his head and looked at her. He scratched her nose and suspiciously asked, Have you been bribed by her sugar-coated bullets? Nonsense. How could I be bribed? I have always been on the same side as you. I am only advising you. In the end, the one who makes the decision is still you. Creak. Suddenly, the door opened, interrupting the two of them. Linger skipped in, followed by a person. AI me. Hello boss. I am sending Miss Linger back. AI me greeted Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng nodded. Looking at Linger who was like a little magpie, his heart couldn't help but feel warm. He asked, Linger, how have you been these 2 days? Linger tilted her head, blinked her eyes and playfully said, Linger is very happy and has also learned a lot of new knowledge. In the past, Linger thought that singing was easy, but now I find that there is a lot of new knowledge to learn. AI me praised from the side. Miss Linger is talented and intelligent. Moreover, she is very talented in singing. Although she has never studied music systematically before, and it is a bit late for an ordinary person to cram for Buddha's feet at the last minute, for Miss Linger, this problem doesn't exist at all. She is a genius. She can learn any song sheet at a glance. Moreover, she has a photographic memory. She is the most powerful person I have seen in so many years. She is even better than the music genius Lu Yenran, who is now known as the Fairy Sister. Lu Yenran. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He remembered the scene in the clothing store. Since Linger wanted to enter the entertainment industry, then it was necessary for her to understand some of the people or things in it. Looking at Tang Zheng's reaction, AI me misunderstood and asked, Is the boss also a fan of Lu Yenran? If there is a chance in the future, I will ask the boss to meet her. She is a popular star, and a typical representative of singing and acting. She has dabbled in singing, movies, and TV series. She is a real star with 3 lives. I heard that her contract with her old company is about to expire. If our company can sign her, then it will definitely be a good start for our company. AI me thought that if she could sign Lu Yenran, then it wouldn't be long before her name as a gold medal manager would be known throughout the entertainment industry. Tang Zheng frowned and said coldly, My company will definitely not sign an artist like Lu Yenran. AI me, who was immersed in joy, was stunned as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on her. She stared at Tang Zheng and asked, Why? If a person's character is not good, then even if she is popular now, my company does not need an artist with such a character problem. Tang Zheng said firmly. AI me was very embarrassed and said, There are some rumors outside, but the flaws do not obscure the beauty. Her appeal is still very amazing. She is the target of many companies. Just a flash in the pan. Tang Zheng did not hide his disdain. Seeing the disappointment on AI Mi's face, Tang Zheng's face sank. He looked at AI Mi very seriously and said, "Since you have joined my company, then I must seriously warn you that my company has a rule, and that is people with bad character should not even think about stepping into this door. Moreover, the unspoken rules of the entertainment industry do not apply to me, so you must change your way of thinking. Otherwise, sooner or later you will also pack your bags and leave." Although AI Mi was a sissy, he wasn't stupid. He had mastered the basic skill of observing people's body language. Seeing the boss so serious, he didn't dare to talk back. He quickly changed his attitude and said, "Boss, I understand. Although Lu Yanran is popular, she is also a troublemaker. The internet revealed that she had a fierce conflict with someone today and was even slapped in the face. Now the internet is in a heated debate. Her fans are thinking of ways to find the person who hit her. It is said that they want to take revenge for her." Tang Zheng froze for a moment and looked at Fang Shishir. The person who revealed this must be someone from the scene today. But he did not think that those fans would want to take revenge for her and deal with the Wu Zong sect leader's wife. Chapter 535. Looking at the strange expressions of Tang Zheng and Fang Shishir, AI Mi thought for a while and asked curiously, "Boss, do you also know about this matter?" Tang Zheng smiled and pointed to Lan Yu's back, saying, "The person they want is right there." Looking at Lan Yu's graceful back, AI Mi exclaimed and covered her mouth, saying, "It turns out that you were the ones who had a conflict with Lu Yanran today." Tang Zheng nodded. "I saw it with my own eyes. I have a deeper understanding than those fans who are deceived by appearance. I know that this kind of person can't stay popular for long." AI Mi lowered her head in shame. She had just mistakenly thought that the boss was Lu Yanran's fan and flattered him. AI Mi, with your professional vision, do you think that Linger will replace Lu Yanran in the future? Tang Jing asked. AI Mi clapped her hands and said without hesitation, "Of course, Lu Yanran is not a fairy sister. Linger is the real fairy sister. She can definitely beat her." He paused for a moment and had an idea. His eyes lit up as he said, "Boss, I've thought of a brilliant idea. Why not just pick a day? Anyway, now that Lu Yanran's incident is making a ruckus, we can push out Miss Ling Er at this time. We can use this opportunity to shift everyone's attention to this new fairy sister. This way we can achieve twice the result with half the effort." "Oh, will it work?" "It will definitely work. The Spring Festival is coming soon and people are on holiday. More and more people will pay attention to entertainment news and more people will pay attention to Linger." AI Mi was full of confidence. Tang Zheng was not familiar with these methods. He was good at delegating power, so he nodded and said, "Okay, you can discuss it with President Mu." "Yes, boss." AI Mi nodded excitedly. "Boss, then I won't disturb you. Goodbye." After sending AI Mi off, Linger looked at herself in the mirror and asked, "Master, that Lu Yanran is really beautiful, and her singing is also very good. Can I compare to her?" Tang Zheng patted her head and encouraged her. "Linger, you have to remember that you are 100 times better than her. You have to have confidence." Linger raised her head and looked at Tang Zheng. She smiled and nodded. "And Linger will remember this. Linger will definitely work hard." At this moment, Xing Feng was also working very hard, because he wanted to get the life-continuing pill before the end of the year and report to the people above. Therefore, he had already plotted with the Song and Chu family. Not only that, he had also borrowed the power of the Rockefeller family, and was prepared to use two methods to force the Yen family obediently to hand over the life-continuing pill. In the middle of the night, Yen Patian was woken up by urgent knocks on the door. If it wasn't for the fact that it was extremely urgent, no one would dare to knock on his door in the middle of the night and disturb his rest. The door opened and Yen Qishan impatiently walked in with a panicked expression. Yen Patian sat on the chair, glanced at his son and frowned. "What are you panicking for? What happened?" He knew that his son had always been a calm person. Normal matters would never cause him to panic like this. "Father, something happened. Lu Yun was arrested by the police," Yen Qishan said. Yen Potion's expression did not change, and asked, "Why was he arrested by the police?" "Drugs. A large amount of drugs were found in his car," Yen Qishan said indignantly. Didn't our Yen family never touch that thing? Could it be that all of you have ignored my warnings? Yen Patian was furious. Not only could drugs destroy a person, they could also destroy a family. Many nouveau riche or celebrity artists like to seek excitement from it, but for a large family like the Yen family, the people of the family were definitely not allowed to touch this thing. Seeing his father's anger, Yen Qishan hurriedly explained. Father, Lu Yun will remember your teachings. He definitely did not touch this thing. Someone is framing him. Yen Patian calmed down.
He was still very satisfied with this grandson of his, and understood that it was indeed impossible for him to risk the world's condemnation to do such a thing.
However, someone dared to extend their hand so far to frame his grandson, Yen Patian. This made him have no choice but to be cautious. Have you found out who it is? Yen Qishan shook his head. Son is incompetent, I haven't found out yet. The police refused to negotiate. They were determined to make this an ironclad case. Father, could it be that the officials above want to touch our family? Yen Patian scoffed and said, No, if the officials above really want to touch the Yen family, they won't use such a small trick. Yen Qishan heaved a sigh of relief and said, In addition, our family's overseas industry seems to have been attacked by an unknown enemy, and a few factories have suffered losses. Yen Potion's pupils constricted and said, This is a two-pronged attack, one outside and one inside. Are you really determined to deal with our Yen family? No matter who this person is, he obviously came prepared. What exactly are they up to? Yen Qishan said worriedly. Your scheme is not small. No matter who it is, go and find out immediately. I want to see who exactly ate the guts of a leopard.
Yen Patian said with a murderous aura.
Hee, it's the middle of the night. The Yen family is very lively. Do you mind if I come and watch the show? A burst of noisy footsteps rang out as a group of people swaggered in. The person in the lead was Xing Feng. Yen Patian and Yen Qishan looked at each other. Their hearts were as clear as a mirror, and they immediately knew who the mastermind behind this series of actions was. Xing Feng, he actually went against the Yen family at all costs. Last time, he couldn't get the life-continuing pill, so he decided to use force this time. Many Yen family guards rushed out from all directions, surrounding this group of people in the middle. Their expressions were unfriendly as they stared at them covetously.
Master, we can't stop them.
The guard reported. Yen Patian waved his hand, dismissed the guards, looked at Xing Feng and said, Xing Feng, isn't your table manners too ugly to actually use such a clumsy method? Xing Feng walked straight to a chair and sat down. He said with a smile that was not a smile, I, Xing, have never cared about my methods. I only care about the results. So you're saying that you can do anything to achieve your goal, and even extort money?
Yen Patian suppressed his anger and asked.
Xing Feng fearlessly looked into Yen Potion's eyes and said, You can understand it that way.
Yen Patian was bewildered and said, Do you think that this will be enough to make my Yen family submit?
You're underestimating the Yen family too much. Hee, I don't dare to underestimate the Yen family, so I've made ample preparations. In the third generation of the Yen family, Yen Lu Yun is the only child. If something were to happen to him, then wouldn't the Yen family be without descendants? Even if he had such a huge family business, who would he pass it down to in the future? It's really a pity that such a big family can't be passed down. This was indeed a fatal weakness of the Yen family. Yen Qishan was furious. Xing Feng, you are playing with fire, do you know that? If anything happens to Lu Yun, I will definitely not let you off. Xing Feng snorted coldly and laughed. You want to kill me, right? Then please go ahead. I also want to know how the Yen family will deal with me if they kill me. Xing Feng was right. He was not a small soldier, but the person in charge of the dragon group. Even if the Yen family had a huge business, if they were to kill him, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. It would not be easy for the Yen family to have a perfect ending. Therefore, the Yen family would definitely not take this risk, which was why Xing Feng dared to be so fearless. Yen Patian obviously understood this point. He coldly stared at the unbridled Xing Feng and said, In the past, I only heard that you relied on the Long family's wings and were good at flattery. I never thought that you would have such methods and courage. You really hid it well. You flatter me. Xing Feng cupped his fists and said shamelessly. I know that you are seeking the life-continuing pill. If I don't hand it over to you, are you really going to kill my grandson?
Yen Patian asked.
You all know that I don't want this thing, but the people above. If I can't hand over the life-continuing pill, then I won't be able to keep this black hat on my head. Do you think I will take the risk and kill your grandson? Xing Feng said with a fake smile. Xing Feng could take the risk, but he did not dare to. If anything happened to Yen Lu Yun, then the Yen family would be extinct. Who would pass down such a huge family business to? This was a great disrespect to his ancestors, so Yen Patian could not do such a thing. Not only did you scheme to frame Lu Yun, you even attacked my Yen family's factory overseas. Your dragon group's hands are really long. Even your overseas relations are so strong. Xing Feng snorted twice, but did not reply. If he did not have the secret help of the Rockefeller family, it would not be easy for the dragon group to threaten the Yen family's factory in the open sea. However, his cooperation with the Rockefeller family was a top secret, and no outsiders were allowed to know about it, so he did not pick up the topic. Yen Patian stared straight at Xing Feng, wanting to see through his trump card, but Xing Feng had hidden it deep enough, and for a moment, he really could not see through it. Have you two made up your mind? Time waits for no one. Many media outlets are already waiting outside the police station. As long as this explosive news is exposed, there will be no way to salvage it. Xing Feng asked. Father. Yen Qishan looked at his father. Yen Patian waved his hand, indicating for him to calm down, and instructed, Qishan, go and get 2 life-continuing pills. Father, you absolutely can't. The life-continuing pill is too precious. Yen Qishan did not expect his father to compromise, and hurriedly advised. Although the life-continuing pill is miraculous, it is still a dead object. My grandson's life is worth more than 2 life-continuing pills. Yen Patian said heroically. Seeing that the other party had compromised, Xing Feng was overjoyed. He pushed his luck and said, Back then, your family bought 5 life-continuing pills, and you only gave me 2 of them and you want to settle the matter? Yen Patian raised his thick eyebrows, and with a bang, he slammed his palm on the wooden table beside him. With a gotcha sound, the wooden table turned into pieces. Xing Feng, don't push your luck. Otherwise, I really won't let you walk out of my Yen family's door today. Yen Patian flew into a rage, his overwhelming aura causing Xing Feng's chest to feel suffocated. Xing Feng's heart skipped a beat. He knew that this was already the other party's limit. If he continued to force the other party, he could only fight to the death. Chapter 536. A moment later, Yen Qishan brought over 2 brocade boxes. 2 life-continuing pills that emitted a strange fragrance lay quietly in the brocade boxes. Xing Feng's eyes burned with passion as he swallowed his saliva. He really wanted to swallow it in one gulp. 1 pill was equivalent to 10 years of life. Even a fool would want such a great fortune. He angrily suppressed his restless thoughts and put away the life-continuing pill. He smiled proudly and said, Thank you. Farewell. Where's Lu Yun? Yen Qishan asked impatiently. Your son will naturally return safe and sound in a while. The overseas factory will also be safe and sound. With that, he turned around and left the Yen family with a group of people. Yen Qishan was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. He gritted his teeth and said, Father, who does this Xing Feng think he is? He dares to ride on top of our Yen family. This is too infuriating. However, Yen Patian gradually calmed down and said calmly, A tall tree attracts the wind. This is a principle that has never changed since ancient times. It seems that the Yen family has flourished for so long, but in the eyes of some people, it has become a big piece of fat meat. Everyone wants to take a bite. Humph. You're not afraid of knocking your teeth out. If our teeth are good, we might really be able to tear off a piece of fat from our bodies. Qishan, the world is about to change. Yen Patian sighed with emotion. No way, right? Yen Qishan exclaimed in disbelief. Hee, your senses are still too slow. Can't you see that the power of the officials has grown stronger and stronger over the years? In the past, they still had to rely on us, but now, they are deliberately distancing themselves from us. Didn't you notice that the officials who are familiar with us are all keeping their distance from us step by step? With his father's reminder, Yen Qishan seemed to have been enlightened and suddenly came to a realization. Father, if you didn't say it, I really wouldn't have noticed it. Now that I think about it,
The officials who have been on good terms with us in the past 2 years have indeed been distancing themselves from us step by step. Therefore, the officials are playing a huge game of chess, slowly weakening the influence of our great families. In the early days of the country's founding, because the large families had sufficient manpower, financial, and material resources, it was a huge fortune for this country that was lacking in resources. That was why the government tolerated our existence. Following the development and changes of the era, all of this will quietly change. This is the inevitability of the era. If you do not recognize this point, then it will definitely end in a tragedy. Yen Patian said resentfully. As the saying goes, when all the birds are gone, the good bough is hidden. When the cunning hare is dead, the hound is cooked. This had always been the case throughout the ages. Yen Patian was not sad, nor was he angry, because if it was him, he would have done the same. The strength of the various great families was enormous. If their influence was not weakened, then many of the decisions made by the government would not be carried out. If it were anyone else, they would take action. Of course, in this modern society, things were much gentler. They only weakened the influence. As long as you knew when to advance and when to retreat, there would still be a good outcome in the end. Father, could it be that handing over the life-continuing pill this time is a signal to the higher-ups? Yen Qixian asked as if he had understood something. Yen Patian looked at his son with admiration, and said, "Smart, this is a signal to let the people above to be at ease with our Yen family, and not to treat our Yen family as a thorn in their side. After all, our Yen family is the biggest among the few families, and it would be difficult for us not to become a target." Yen Qixian said indignantly, "Don't tell me we don't have any countermeasures? Just like that, we're at the mercy of others." Yen Patian laughed unfathomably. "The world is changing, who can say for sure?" Yen Qixian seemed to be deep in thought. Suddenly, his heart moved as he thought of Yen Qingyi's prophecy. He said in bewilderment, "Qingyi said that there will be a calamity in this world. When the time comes, the world will change, and Tang Zheng will turn the tide. We maintain a close relationship with Tang Zheng. Maybe we can use this opportunity to seek a turnaround." Immediately, Yen Qixian looked at his father with eyes full of worship. His father was indeed resourceful, and had already calculated this move. That was why he did not hesitate to offend the holy maiden of Li Palace to protect Tang Zheng. Now it seemed that the decision back then was really too wise. He had prepared for a rainy day and fought for another possibility for the Yen family. Yen Potion's smile became even more unfathomable as he said, "We are unable to predict what will happen in the future. Let's do our best and leave it to fate. This time, Qingyi will go to the northwest to see that towering tree and see if she can gain anything." Yen Qixian nodded. From the looks of it, although his sister had never practiced martial arts before, she had fought for a lot of opportunities for the Yen family in this crucial matter. She had played a greater role than her brother. He couldn't help but be impressed by his father's foresight. When Yen Qingyi became a monk, he had truly become the laughingstock of many people, thinking that it was a great shame for the Yen family. Not only did her father not object, he even supported her outrageous actions. But now, it seemed that she did not have any cultivation in the martial way, but she was becoming more and more proficient in the mysterious art of foretelling the future. Qixian, from now on, our Yen family must be united in order to reverse the situation. Furthermore, we must remember that other than you and me, no third person is allowed to know about today's matter. Yen Patian warned sternly. Yen Qixian was shocked and hurriedly asked, "Are you not going to tell Lu Yun?" Yen Patian snorted and said, "Although he is innocent, he has fallen into the enemy's trap. Thus, in short, his experience is still too lacking, and he needs to sharpen it a little." Yen Qixian sighed inwardly, but he had no way to refute his son. After all, Yen Lu Yun had indeed caused the Yen family to fall into a passive situation this time. "Speak of the devil." Yen Lu Yun walked in with his head lowered, looking rather miserable as he called out nervously, "Grandfather, Dad, I'm back." Yen Qixian frowned and shouted angrily, "Look at what you've done this time." The Yen family suffered a huge loss in front of Xingfeng, and lost 2 life-continuing pills. Yen Lu Yun turned pale with fright and said, "How can you give him such a precious life-continuing pill? If you don't give it to him, will you be able to come back safe and sound?" Yen Qixian reprimanded in annoyance. Actually, Yen Qixian was quite satisfied with this son of his.
Yan Lu Yun was not like the rich second generation of the other families, who only knew how to eat, drink, and play.
He was undoubtedly the #1 figure among the young masters in the capital.
For me, you actually lost 2 life-continuing pills. It's not worth it. Yan Lu Yun said in shame. Yan Patian smiled faintly, and said, life-continuing pills are just dead objects in the end, and you are our grandson. Of course, your life is not something that 2 life-continuing pills can compare to. Seeing his grandfather say that, Yan Lu Yun was even more ashamed and dejected. It's all because Lu Yun is useless. Raise your head. Yan Patian shouted. It's just a small setback. Could it be that I've knocked you down? You have to remember, you are a son of the Yan family. How can you admit defeat so easily? Yan Liuyun's mind shook. He raised his head, his gaze firm. Yes, Yan Luyun will remember grandfather's teachings. You were framed this time. Do you know who did it? Yan Patian asked. A fierce glint appeared in Yan Luyun's eyes, and he said coldly, of course I know. What should I do? You know, right?
Yan Luyun nodded. Yan Luyun understands.
Although the Yan family had compromised with Xing Feng, it did not mean that the Yan family could be framed by others. The one who framed Yan Luyun this time was also a rich family's son, who usually had a good relationship with Yan Luyun. Yan Luyun was not on guard at all, which was why he was caught off guard. Towards the other party's betrayal, Yan Luyun hated him to the bones, so of course he would not let him off easily. As for how Xing Feng had bribed the other party, he did not care. Actually, this was not because Xing Feng had bribed the other party, but because of the work of the 2 young masters, Song Yu and Chu Xiaofan. They understood these hedonistic sons better than Xing Feng, so they were very clear about their weaknesses and hit them with a single strike. Yan Liuyun's anger was obviously not something that could be extinguished so easily. That night, he started his crazy revenge. In the end, the young master's sports car was found to have fallen off a cliff, and the car was destroyed and he died. Some people who knew the details naturally guessed that all of this was Yan Liuyun's revenge, but no one stood out to criticize him, because this was the fate of a pawn. As for the other party's family business, it also suffered a thunderous blow. Not long after, it was completely defeated, beaten down to the mortal world, and shattered into pieces. Tang Zhang, who was thousands of miles away, did not know of these matters, nor did he know that the Yan family had already made him their most important partner, thus replacing the position of Li Palace. The night was dark and the wind was strong. Tang Zhang stood alone at the peak of the back mountain of Ordinary Balance Mountain. The ground was faintly covered in white snow, and there were few people around. The surroundings were pitch black, and the silence was frightening. Overlooking the cliff below, the past was vivid in his mind. The first time he had refined the life-continuing pill was here, and the heaven-fragrant flower was also picked on this cliff. Thus, this place left him with too many memories. Standing here once again, he felt completely different. Looking at the 10,000-foot cliff below him, and the Ordinary Balance courtyard not far away, a heroic feeling arose spontaneously. Ordinary Balance Mountain had witnessed his rise step by step, and he would definitely walk higher and further from here.
Looking at the lights of the Ordinary Balance courtyard, his heart stirred.
In the past, he had instructed Lin Hu and the others to completely destroy the Ordinary Balance courtyard and then replace it. After all, this was Chonghang Resort, and it was the benchmark of the entertainment industry in this area. It was a place that the rich liked to visit the most, and if Tang Zhang wanted to become strong, then he had to step on this eyesore. However, before Lin Hu could carry out his plan, he encountered Xing Feng. Since he had returned this time, he would take advantage of the Spring Festival to get rid of this stumbling block. However, his goal tonight was not the Ordinary Balance courtyard, but another important mission, to refine the Dragon Origin Pill. In the past, the Dragon Origin Pill he refined used the blood of the 5-clawed golden dragon, so its power was especially tyrannical. But this time, he did not have the blood of the 5-clawed golden dragon, but he had a substitute, the blood of the flood dragon, the fruit of victory after killing the flood dragon in the Dragon Palace. In fact, it could be said that this time he was refining the real Dragon Origin Pill, because the original Dragon Origin Pill used the blood of the flood dragon, and not the blood of the 5-clawed golden dragon. He deliberately chose to come to this mountain peak in the middle of the night in order to avoid attracting the attention of others when refining the pill. Chapter 537.
Tang Zheng gently waved his hand and the 9 revolving pill furnace flew out of his sumaru bag and steadily landed on top of the mountain peak. The 9 revolving pill furnace was a mysterious grade magic treasure, and it emitted a mysterious aura in the night. He had already prepared the medicinal ingredients and placed them into the cauldron. Then, he focused his mind and calmed his breathing as he circulated the ancient clear heaven scroll. A second-grade true fire emerged from his fingertips. The purple flame appeared somewhat enchanting in the night sky. It danced with the wind like a flame spirit dancing on his fingertips. Now his control over the true fire was very good. Although the true fire had only reached the second-grade realm, it was enough for normal alchemy. Looking at the flame on his fingertips, his heart was moved. Since he had enough flood dragon blood essence, he could refine a large amount of dragon origin pills. Not only for himself but also for the people around him. Because the enemy was getting stronger, in addition to arming himself, he also had to arm others. In the future, he would have to refine pills frequently. The 9 revolving pill furnace and the true fire were especially important as both of them had to be upgraded. The 9 revolving pill furnace was originally an earth-grade magic treasure and was a rare alchemy treasure. Now that it had been restored to the mysterious grade, it was only a step away from its peak state. I must find a way to upgrade it. Tang Zheng made up his mind. In addition, the true fire in his body was a second-grade true fire. There were a total of 6th-grade true fires, so his true fire was still weak and there was still a lot of room for improvement. However, this was not something that could be improved just because he said so. He still had to carefully ponder over it. He calmed himself down and with a flick of his finger, the second-grade true fire flew into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace and enveloped the herbs, burning and tumbling them. He continuously formed seals and one by one he sent them into the 9 revolving pill furnace. The aura of heaven and earth suddenly changed and the spiritual qi in the air was sucked into the furnace. Tang Zheng was slightly surprised. Looking at the chaotic aura of heaven and earth, he muttered to himself, "The spiritual qi of this ordinary balanced mountain peak is much richer than before. What is going on?" He frowned. A change in spiritual qi was not a simple matter. There must be a reason for it. Suddenly, he thought of something. Could it be because of the Tree of Life? Linger had once said that the Tree of Life could improve the air quality and replenish the thin spirit qi. Could this be the result of the Tree of Life's transformation? He felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. One had to know that the Tree of Life had only appeared for a few days, and it had already improved the spirit qi of heaven and earth so quickly. He had no choice but to re-evaluate the Tree of Life. This towering tree was far more miraculous than he had imagined. The Tree of Life contains such powerful spiritual energy. If I cultivate under the tree, I will be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. This was truly too tempting. No cultivator would be able to resist this kind of heaven-defying temptation, and Tang Zheng was no exception. I must go there after the new year to see if I can gain anything. He secretly made up his mind. A large amount of spiritual energy was sucked into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. Once the second-grade true fire came in contact with the spiritual energy, it burned even more vigorously and illuminated the interior of the furnace with a sparkling purple light. Time passed little by little. The medicinal properties of the herbs were extracted and turned into a large liquid ball. It was wrapped by the true fire and was constantly rolling. The impurities in the medicinal dregs turned into gas and soared into the air before dissipating with the wind. Flood dragon blood. Tang Zheng shouted. A mass of flood dragon blood wrapped in true qi flew out from his sumaru bag and was directly thrown into the 9 revolving alchemy furnace. Boom! It was as if the flame had encountered an accelerant. It soared into the sky, turning the entire mountain peak purple. The 9 revolving alchemy furnace also began to rapidly revolve. In the end, a vortex formed above the alchemy furnace. The spiritual energy of the world was rapidly sucked in, and a strange fragrance began to spread out from the furnace. As the sky gradually brightened, the furnace stopped rotating. The thin layer of snow on the mountain peak had completely melted. The grass and trees were nourished and glowed with vitality. 15 Dragon Origin Dawn. Looking at the golden pills in the furnace, Tang Zheng was overjoyed. Last time, he used the 5-clawed golden dragon blood to refine 10 Dragon Origin Dawn. This time, there were 15 Dragon Origin Dawn, 5 more than last time. Regarding this,
He was not surprised. The Dragon Origin Dawn refined by the 5-clawed golden dragon were too overbearing, so he could only refine 10. But this time, he was able to refine 15 Dragon Origin Dawn. These were the true Dragon Origin Dawn that could be directly consumed. It was not like before where he could only consume them under certain circumstances. Otherwise, there would be a danger of his body exploding. He carefully put away the Dragon Origin Dawn and floated down the mountain. His speed was very fast and soon he arrived in front of the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. The Ordinary Balance Courtyard was currently being decorated to add a festive atmosphere. Lin, who had once said that before the holidays, the Ordinary Balance Courtyard would earn a lot of money. Even the Spring Festival was no exception. This was because many people liked to invite guests to the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. This place represented a kind of class and could increase the host's face. Although the Ordinary Balance Courtyard was filthy, it had a good reputation among the upper echelons. Many people even brought their families here to enjoy themselves. It could almost satisfy the needs of customers of all ages. Looking at the busy Ordinary Balance Courtyard, Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a cold light. He sneered, "I'll let this place be glorious for a few more days. After the Spring Festival, I'll come back to clean up this mess. Songyu, you secretly made things difficult for me, so I won't let you have an easy time. I'll start with the Ordinary Balance Courtyard." On the 29th of December, every household was busy. Tang Zheng was no exception. He put up Spring Festival couplets and cleaned up. He was extremely busy. This was the first time that Linger had experienced such things. She was so excited that her face was red. She was busy here and there. Everything was new to her. AI, if only Nana was here. She would definitely be very happy to see so many fun things. Ling said with some disappointment. In the past few days, she had met with Nan Nan. These two girls seemed to have a tacit understanding of each other and were able to get along very well. There were many times when they would get together and play together. There was no need to mention how happy they were. Therefore, when Ling saw so many novel things, she thought of her good friend. Although Ling was physically mature, she was inexperienced. Her mind was not mature. She was equivalent to a 10-year-old child. Hearing her mention this, Tang Zheng's head slightly moved. Mu Hongyan and Nana were alone in the Ordinary Balance Courtyard. When the Spring Festival came, it would be very lonely. Anyway, the Spring Festival was lively. He might as well call them home and have a happy Spring Festival together. When Tang Zheng proposed this to his grandfather supported it with both hands. When people were old, they wanted to have fun. Tang Zheng immediately contacted Mu Hongyan. The phone rang a few times before the other party picked up.
Tang Zheng, what's the matter?
Sister Mu, what are you busy with? I'm still refining various business plans. These things will be needed after the Spring Festival. They can't be delayed. Mu Hongyan said seriously. Tang Zheng was shocked and asked, "You're still working?" Mu Hongyan was a free person. Tang Zheng left everything to her to manage. He did not expect her to work so hard.
It was already the 29th of December and she was still working.
"I'm at home,"
Mu Hongyan said with a smile.
"It's the Spring Festival. Aren't you going to accompany Nana? She's playing by herself. It's fine." "Then how are you going to celebrate the Spring Festival?" "I'm not prepared." Mu Hongyan told the truth. In the past, she had always spent the Spring Festival in the Long family. It was very lively, so she did not need to worry about these things. "Sister Mu, don't work anymore. Today, your first task is to accompany Nana and go shopping for clothes or other things. You should at least take a break at the end of the year. Tomorrow, you guys come to my house early to reunite and have New Year's Eve dinner together."
Tang Zheng said without hesitation.
"There's no need."
"There's a need."
"Sister Mu, I'm the boss. This is my order. You have to follow it, understand?" Tang Zheng took out the posture of a boss and said firmly. Mu Hongyan laughed involuntarily. "Don't all bosses want their employees to work hard? Where would you encourage your employees to be lazy? Let's strike a balance between work and rest. Now that you're tired, who will work for me in the future? I'm thinking far ahead. I'm serious. Don't work today. The Spring Festival is too important for children. Don't neglect Nana. Tang Zheng said earnestly. Mu Hongyan turned her head and looked at her daughter who was playing alone. Her heart softened and she said, "All right, I won't be polite with you. Tomorrow, I'll bring Nana to your house." There were guests coming, so Tang Zheng specially went to prepare children's toys and snacks. After being so busy, the sky turned dark. The few of them tidied up and fell asleep, conserving their energy for tomorrow's spring festival. As night fell, a gust of cold wind suddenly blew in from the window. Immediately, the room became even darker. It was as thick as ink. On the bed, Tang Dahai was lying quietly. His breathing was even and steady. It was obvious that he was sleeping soundly. Two shadows suddenly appeared in the darkness. These two shadows merged into one with the darkness. It was almost impossible to distinguish them from each other.
The black shadow floated to the front of the bed and stared at the sleeping Tang Dahai with wide eyes.
"Is it him?"
Suddenly, one of the black shadows asked. The other black shadow nodded. "It's him."
The first person who increased his lifespan was him. The source of the problem must be him. Then should we detain his soul and interrogate it? The Ghost King ordered us to get to the bottom of this. If we can't find anything, then us two brothers will suffer. So we can't care too much and detain his soul for interrogation. Humph, a person can lie when they are alive, but a soul can't lie. We'll know once we ask. But I'm afraid his lifespan will be damaged.
His lifespan was already at its end.
I don't know what method he used to extend his lifespan by so much, but he even gained 10 more years of lifespan. How preposterous. Even if something really happens to him, he deserves it. He only has himself to blame. The higher-ups won't blame us, right?
What's there to be afraid of?
When we return his soul, he won't die. Us two brothers can still guarantee that he will live for another 10 years. Humph, but these 10 years I'm afraid he will be seriously ill in bed like a living dead. But as long as he doesn't die, no one will pursue us. Chapter 538. The two shadows reached a consensus. One of them took out a bell and shook it. However, the bell didn't make any sound on purpose. However, a mysterious aura spread out and enveloped Tang Dahai. A shadow slowly floated up from his body as if it was about to leave. Bang! Suddenly, with a muffled sound, the door was fiercely pushed open. Tang Zheng stood at the door and angrily shouted, "Stop!" The two shadows were shocked and hurriedly stopped. The shadow on Tang Dahai's body returned to his body and merged with him. Tang Zheng's heart jumped. If he was late, his grandfather would have been killed by these two guys. Fortunately, he was sleeping in the living room, which was very close to his grandfather's bedroom. When he heard a little movement, he rushed in. "Ah, he can see us!" cried the black shadow in panic. "Of course he can see. What are you?" Tang Zheng did not ask who they were, but what they were. This was because he had already determined that they were not human. The yin qi on their body was very dense and was quite rare. If Huang Xiang or War Spirit were here, they would definitely like this dense yin qi. After Huang Xiang returned to the ordinary balance, he was placed in a special place by Tang Zheng. War Spirit and the two shooting sun arrows were still in the hands of the martial organization sect master. The shadow looked at Tang Zheng in disbelief and asked, "Who are you? How can you see us?" "You just wanted to hurt my grandfather, right?" Tang Zheng asked sternly.
One of the shadows had an idea and shouted, "I know. He is a cultivator."
"He is not a cultivator of this world. He has been expelled. How can there still be?" Seeing that the other party did not answer, Tang Zheng's face turned ashen. With such a big movement, the old man did not wake up. Then there must be a problem. In addition, Tang Zheng gradually smelled a familiar aura from the other party. It was the aura of the ghost realm. He had dealt with the ghost realm visitors several times. He was even chased by a ghost general. But the yin qi on the two was obviously stronger. If he really was a guest from the ghost realm, then he must be in existence more powerful than the ghost general. The ghost realm suddenly came here, which meant that something must have gone wrong, and it was related to his grandfather's safety. If he didn't get to the bottom of this, Tang Zheng wouldn't be able to sleep. "Since you don't want to talk, I'll capture you and slowly interrogate you," Tang Zheng said sternly. His figure flashed and pounced on the other party. The other party was enraged and roared, "How dare you, a little Xiaofan dares to oppose our ghost marshal, today we'll make your soul scatter." Ghost marshal. Tang Zheng remembered this term. Since they were ghost marshals, they were definitely stronger than ghost generals. Facing two ghost marshals, he didn't know if he had the confidence to win. Furthermore, this was a residential area, so many divine abilities could not be used, such as the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows. If they were to be used, then this building would be almost destroyed. Therefore, Tang Zheng used his hand as a sword and quickly thrust it out. Before the first move was over, the second move was up, and the third move was dazzling, as if there really was a sharp sword in front of his eyes that was attacking him. The ghost marshal was not a fake either. He could tell with a single glance that Tang Zheng was not an ordinary cultivator. He was extremely powerful. The two of them shouted at the same time, "How dare you!" Two black lights soared into the sky, directly meeting Tang Zheng's attack. The two sides immediately began to fight, flashing and moving about in this small space. The furniture was destroyed one after another, and the ground was in a mess. In the end, only the bed that Tang Dehai was sleeping on was intact. In order to protect his grandfather from being implicated, Tang Zheng's strength was reduced by a few points, and it was hard to tell who would win. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. Since such a powerful cultivator has appeared by this old man's side, then perhaps the matter of extending his lifespan is related to him, or perhaps he knows the details. Once we capture him, we can report to the Ghost King. A ghost marshal said excitedly, as if he had discovered a new continent. That makes sense. In order to avoid any trouble, we have to take him down quickly. The other agreed readily. The two of them looked at each other, and as if they had a tacit understanding, they suddenly sped up. In the blink of an eye, the room was filled with gusts of cold wind, as if they were in a ghost realm. The cold wind roared angrily, as if there were thousands of vengeful spirits coming to claim their lives. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits by this scene, but Tang Zheng was filled with killing intent. He was completely unaffected by the yin qi, and started to attack. Suddenly, a strong gust of cold wind blew, and a green face and fanged ghost head bit towards Tang Zheng's head. Tang Zheng's finger poked upwards, hitting the ghost head, and the ghost head exploded, turning into balls of black light. However, before Tang Zheng could heave a sigh of relief, a biting cold wind blew from all directions, and 8 ghost heads attacked Tang Zheng at the same time. There were green-faced and fanged ghost heads in front of him, and they were extremely terrifying. Tang Zheng stabilized his mind, with a thought. He took out the dragon-trapped rope. Although he was unable to use the heaven-shocking bow, the dragon-trapped rope was still useful. With a shake of his arm, the dragon-trapped rope drew a circle and wrapped around the 2 ghost heads in front of him. With a sudden force, the ghost heads exploded. The other 6 ghost heads had already arrived behind Tang Zheng, their eyes emitting a green light, as if they would immediately bite off a piece of flesh from Tang Zheng's body. "Master, what happened?" Suddenly, Linger walked to the door and turned on the light switch. The room immediately lit up. When she saw this scene, she immediately covered her mouth in shock and almost screamed. She shouted in panic, "Who are you? I won't allow you to hurt Master." As he spoke, he rushed towards a ghost head. As if the ghost head had a mind of its own, it changed its direction and directly bit her body. "Be careful!" Tang Zheng shouted in shock. This ghost head was not simple. It was condensed from yin qi and evil qi. If it was bitten, then these qi would enter the meridians and cause great harm to the human body. Linger pouted, her pink face was fiendish, she was not afraid at all. Instead, she rushed forward a few steps and said angrily, "You are not allowed to hurt Master." Just as the ghost head was about to touch Linger's skin, suddenly, a green light was emitted from her body. When the ghost head touched the green light, it immediately disappeared into thin air. Seeing that Linger was safe and sound, Tang Zheng finally heaved a sigh of relief. In fact, ever since Linger had transformed into a human, he had never asked about Linger's strength. This time, seeing that the ghost head could not gain any advantage in front of Linger, he secretly guessed that although Linger was innocent, her instincts were not weak. Taking advantage of this gap, the dragon-trapping rope was like a nimble dragon, constantly churning. In an instant, the remaining 5 ghost heads were eliminated. "Linger, take Grandpa out, protect Grandpa," Tang Zheng anxiously ordered. "Master, Linger wants to protect you." Ling volunteered. They can't hurt me, Ling. Your task is to protect Grandpa. Ling pouted. She seemed to be distressed and regretful that she could not protect Grandpa, but she did not object. She supported the unconscious Tang Dehai and stepped out of the house. Shangxian, do you need my help? Gue Qiansui also staggered to the door, but Xiaobai was lying on its back, too lazy to move. It raised its head and looked at the two ghost commanders, as if it had no interest, and lazily lay down again. Since absorbing the magma in the cave, Xiaobai had turned into a ball, inconvenient to move, and also became lazy. Finally, after discovering Gue Qiansui, this free mobility tool, it did not even need to walk, and spent most of its time lying on Gue Qiansui's back, letting it carry it. Regarding the little guy's mischievous appearance, Tang Zheng had no choice but to let it do as it pleased. At this moment, seeing its dull appearance, which was completely different from its previous aggressive temperament, he could not help but find it funny. You all step back, protect Grandpa and Ling. I can deal with the two of them alone. After a period of fighting, Tang Zheng gradually figured out the strength of the other side. These two's fighting strength was indeed higher than the Ghost General's, but after Tang Zheng had the help of the dragon-trapping rope, it was obviously impossible for the other side to escape. The two Ghost Commanders also saw this point, so their expression became nervous. The two looked at each other and nodded, as if they had reached some kind of tacit understanding. Then, one of them took the lead to rush towards Tang Zheng, and with a wave of his hand, several ghost heads flew in front of him towards Tang Zheng. The other one took out a token. The token flashed with a black light, and the air fluctuated violently. Gotcha! It was as if the space was torn apart, and a black door suddenly appeared. There was not a trace of light behind the door. It was as dark as ink, and it was impossible to see what was behind the door. However, a dense yin qi drifted out from behind the door, causing people's hearts to tremble violently. Tang Zheng recognized the door at a glance and exclaimed, "Ghost Gate." Seeing that Tang Zheng recognized the Ghost Gate, the two Ghost Commanders' eyelids twitched. The average person did not have such knowledge, so they were certain that the increase in lifespan was definitely related to this cultivator, so they could capture him and report back. Want to escape? No way. Of course, Tang Zheng could not let these two escape. Otherwise, what would happen if the Ghost Realm sent more powerful experts? Moreover, he still had not figured out what was going on. Why would the Ghost Commanders come to find Grandpa? Didn't Grandpa still have 10 years of lifespan? Now was not the time to reap souls, and it was even more impossible to let these two Ghost Commanders become soul reapers. There was something fishy about all of this. With a wave of his hand, the dragon-trapping rope shot down several ghost heads, and Tang Zheng leaped, attacking the Ghost Commander near the Ghost Gate. He had to tie him down and prevent him from escaping back to the Ghost Realm. If that happened, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to pursue him. The Ghost Commander seemed to be scared silly. Seeing Tang Zheng attack, he stood motionless in place, as if waiting for Tang Zheng to attack. With a wave of the dragon-trapping rope, it immediately wrapped around the opponent, but the Ghost Commander rushed towards Tang Zheng, opening his arms and hugging Tang Zheng's waist. Tang Zheng felt a chill in his heart. What was going on? Before he could understand, he felt his back tighten. The other Ghost Commander had also pounced over, hugging him with both hands, one in front and one behind. The two of them were like drowning people grabbing onto a life-saving straw, not letting go no matter what. Then, carrying Tang Zheng, they flew into the Ghost Gate. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.